Hello everyone, welcome to What If Luffy Got Lost in My Hero Academia World Part 5. Chapter 19. Breakdown. The Yaoyorozu Mansion. Right now Luffy and Momo were on vacation from UA, that was what the school body told them anyway, but anybody smart enough would have realized that it was because of the League of Villains attack. Even though the school getting attacked was pretty big news, it was heavily overshadowed by the three-way fight between All Might, All For One, and Luffy, which UA was pretty grateful for. Come on Lu, you have to give me more than that. You can't just say that it happens. Momo said from her spot on the couch for what was probably the 20th time. Luffy looked annoyed. I mean, it's a whole transformation, this isn't something that just happens. But it did happen, Luffy said from his spot on a nearby beanbag. He was getting really tired of Momo asking him about his fifth gear. I was just feeling free and was having a blast fighting that kinda happened, what else do you want me to say? Ugh, well, I don't know, you know I'm not the only one interested, right? I mean the whole class has been sending me messages non-stop. How do you think I feel when I wake up and the first thing I see is at least 30 messages asking about you? I'm surprised they haven't visited already. Momo said as she reached for the remote for the living room's flat screen. Haven't they called or messaged you? Messaged you? Oh, you mean on the phone thing? I lost that thing. Luffy said nonchalantly as he spun his straw hat on his finger. Momo twitched an eyebrow. You lost it? What do you mean you lost it? I told you to look after it like that straw hat, what am I gonna do when I need to call you? Momo said with a palm on her forehead. She supposed she could have just made him another one, but how many times is she gonna make him a new phone? Can you at least tell me when you lost it? When did you give me it? Luffy asked after a moment of focused thinking. About 3 months ago. Momo asked as she switched on the TV and started flipping between channels. Then about 3 months ago. Luffy said, not knowing that he came very close to getting an earful, thankfully a news channel saved him. Look, it's All Night. TSK, this isn't over. Momo said angrily as she upped the volume and looked at All Might, who looked like he was holding a press conference. As much as she wanted to scold Luffy, she was even more interested in what was going to happen to All Might and his legacy, him going AWOL after his big fight, and the media begging him to make a public statement. Apparently, he was going to do just that. But All Might. Sir, a question, Sir All Might, a question please, I have a question, All Might. And multiple questions like this were asked way too fast and way too loud to understand. The flashes from the cameras blinded him, even though he didn't show it. All Might sighed, now in his deflated form, held a hand up to signify the press to quiet down. He wore a suit, not his hero outfit. I've been dreading this, possibly my last press conference. He pointed to a random person who had their hand up. Yes, the young man in the middle. All Might, I'll just ask the question on everyone's mind. What happened to your appearance? Is this a result of the fight in Kamino Ward? The young man asked, his pen and notepad at the ready, the same as many other journalists there. My appearance is the result of a fight against a villain about 5 years ago. As soon as he said this, multiple cameras flashed at once and people started whispering with each other. Thanks to modern medicine, quirk usage, and my own quirk, I've managed to survive what should have been a fatal blow, but not without consequence. Ever since that fight, my quirk has started to diminish in strength, being able to keep my other form from a couple of days a week to a couple of hours a day. Sadly, now I find it hard to keep it for more than a couple of seconds. I'm hoping to put my experience and hero knowledge to good use to educate the next generation. This news very clearly stunned the journalists. Not only had their suspicions been confirmed, but they also got confirmation that the world had truly lost the hero All Might. There was a moment of silence. From now on, I'll use dot to indicate silence. Suddenly, a reporter stood up and said. Have you been lying to the public for the past 5 years? Well, All Might expected this kind of question, but was also caught off guard, not expecting someone to ask it so fast. You kept secret the fact that you were unable to do your duties as Japan's NR1 hero. Were you aware of the fact that you gave the public false hope? Another reporter stood up and said. Oh no. Tsukauchi said from his spot behind the press conference stage. He was asked by All Might to assist him in making and securing this press conference from possible villain attacks. Now he wasn't sure if he was going to have to stop this press conference due to it turning violent. The mood is quickly changing. If you don't do anything, we could be in big trouble. And I don't mean just us, I mean the whole hero society. He said in his earpiece to All Might. Was the public aware of the fact that they couldn't be protected? A news anchor said as she also stood up. Soon, more and more of these questions popped up, questions where everyone knew the answer, but they wanted to hear it from All Might himself. They were protected, All Might said loudly in an attempt to cut through the noise and quiet down the room, but it didn't work. Would you have been able to defeat the villain if the mysterious hero hadn't shown up? All Might heard from the loud crowd seemed to get louder and louder. The cameras flashing him non-stop. All Might started saying but trailed off, the noise of the crowd growing ever more distant. The fact is that he didn't know if he would have defeated All For One if Luffy hadn't shown up. And that terrified him. Suddenly, a question pierced through the noise of the crowd. How can we ever put our trust into our hero society after this? This question seemed to quiet down the crowd. All Might took this opportunity and rolled with it. I will admit the fact that I have lied, but don't think I have done it without a good reason. I have built my hero persona as someone invincible, someone who can't be defeated, a hero who would strike fear in the hearts of villains just by hearing my name. I can't say I don't regret it, but I also can't apologize for it. A symbol of peace, that's who I am that's who I was, a blanket to shield society from villainy, to bring peace to this god-forsaken world. Now it's your turn, heroes. All Might said. The room had grown silent, only the sound of pens against paper and camera flashes filling the room. It's your turn to become the symbol of peace, to pick up my mantle and announce proudly, I am here, All Might said as he switched into his muscle form, before quickly getting out of it and spitting out blood. The reporters freaked out at this but didn't dare stop him. Trust that, trust in us, and trust that the age of heroes is still prospering. Not bad. All Might heard Tsukauchi in his ear. You managed to calm the room filled with angry reporters while also reassuring everybody. Not bad at all. Time seemed to move at a snail's pace as All Might waited for anybody to ask him something. His prayers were answered as a reporter held his hand up. Yes, can you tell us more about the villain that you have fought? He asked with a mic extended to All Might. I'm afraid that information is confidential. The only thing the public must know about him is that he is locked up at Tartarus, where he won't see the light of day anytime soon. All Might said as the reporter sat down. Soon another female journalist sat up and asked. At the battle scene, you weren't the only hero there, were you? She asked and All Might felt a bead of sweat form on his forehead. He dreaded this question way more than the other two. An unknown rookie hero appeared seemingly out of nowhere and played a big role in defeating the villain. Quickly rising through the unofficial popularity rankings and gaining a top 10 spot in a hero for children list, this young hero has gathered nicknames such as the White Cartoon, Shirakumo, and Boundless. Can you tell us more about him? And is he a hero or a vigilante? The White Cartoon is pretty self-explanatory. Shirakumo means white cloud, thanks to Discord for that one. Boundless cause he isn't bound to Earth and its laws of physics. Well, you see, All Might knew who he was and he knew him quite well, but if he said who he was, he might as well throw Luffy in jail himself. So he was going to lie, even though he didn't like it. My fight at Kamino Ward was the first time I saw him. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about him, besides the fact that he is strong and that he helped me defeat the villain. So, based on that, I wouldn't consider him dangerous, but I also wouldn't consider him safe. If you see him, my advice is to get away from him as fast as possible. Luffy and Momo. Look Momo, look, that's me, Luffy said as he got off the beanbag and pointed to the screen which held a still image of Luffy in Gear 5, laughing. Wow, they're talking about me, that's so cool, is that how I look? It's so awesome. I'm more relieved at what All Might had to say. You certainly can't handle the media, so it's a good thing he's driving them away from you. Also, get away from the screen, I can't see anything. Momo said as Luffy apologized quickly and got back on his beanbag. Multiple eyewitness reports have placed teenagers at the fight scene. Care to elaborate on that? Luffy and Momo heard a reporter say as the camera panned to the crowd of reporters. Luffy seemed excited while Momo looked worried. Due to the evacuation alarm and the sheer scale of the battle, I find it hard to believe anybody would have been there unharmed and willing. As for myself, I can't say that I have seen any teenagers there. All Might lied to the press. He lied to protect the kids, his students. Even if he didn't like it. Lying comes with a job, unfortunately. Sadly, this is all the time we have for today. If there are any questions left, please redirect them to the Hero Safety Commission. Thank you all and goodbye. Wait, All Might, wait, we still have more questions, the reporters said in an uproar as All Might left the stage. Huh? That's it? Luffy said, disappointed. He barely said anything. It doesn't matter how much you say, it matters what you say. Momo said, also a little disappointed. Luffy could at least understand that. She understood why. All Might was there to answer the questions that were on the public minds the most, he didn't have to say every single detail. So ready for more training? Momo asked after closing the TV. Ugh, again? Are you serious? Luffy said, looking very annoyed. All we've been doing, since I fought the masked guy, is train. You can never train too much. Momo said in response. Who knows when I might fight again? What if what happened at camp happens again? You know, old man Rayleigh says that you should always take breaks. Luffy said. You don't get stronger with breaks. Momo said as she got up from her couch. Come on, just 5 more minutes. It wasn't gonna be just 5 minutes, thankfully for her, Luffy was too stupid to realize that. BNHA, but just 5 minutes, okay. Luffy said as he jumped from his beanbag and headed towards the gym. Of course. Momo lied. Ever since her realization of just how weak she was compared to the elites of the world, she started training harder and harder. Oh yeah. By the way, Mr. Aizawa and All Might are supposed to come by later. Really? Luffy said surprised. That's awesome, I haven't seen those guys in a while. It's been only 2 weeks. Momo said with a bead of sweat down her forehead. They said that they have some important news, even my parents are going to come to greet them. Well, maybe they're making a secret party for us, Luffy said hopeful. He did really want some sort of party after his last battle. How can it be a secret party if they say that they're gonna come? Momo wondered, Luffy's mind was really a mystery to her on the best of days. But she was worried, not because All Might and her homeroom teacher are gonna come to give her and Luffy the lecture of a lifetime. She's more worried about her parents coming since they were extremely busy these past few weeks. All Might being gone didn't do anything good for her father's company, quite the opposite, so he had to stay at work, day in and day out. They didn't even come to visit her in the hospital. Ugh, I can already feel the migraine coming. Aizawa, present Mick. Currently, Aizawa and Yamada were walking through the empty halls of UA. They were going to meet Nezu, but the air felt heavy with a topic they didn't really feel like talking about. So present Mick said, in an attempt to fill the dead air and to bring up the subject. Do you think that Luffy? No way. Aizawa already knew what he was gonna ask and immediately dismissed it. But present Mick insisted. It's not possible. He's dead. Aizawa said. Weirder things have happened. Yamada said as he shook his head. Aizawa couldn't disagree with him. I mean, just take a look at him and tell me it doesn't look like him even a tiny bit. He said as he pulled a screenshot of Luffy in Gear 5. Aizawa quickly glanced at Yamada's phone. Even the way he acts, Yamada said as he put his phone away. It's way over the top and way more than he used to act, but you can't say. No, I can say. He's dead. Shirakumo is dead. I refuse to believe otherwise. Aizawa interrupted with an annoyed hurt tone. I can't believe otherwise. But Yamada was interrupted again. We're here. Aizawa said as he moved to knock on the principal's door. Don't bring it up again. Please. Aizawa said, the hurt clear in his voice. Fine. Yamada said and believed it himself. There's no way that their long-dead friend could have been alive all this time. Right. Knock knock knock. Come in. Nezu said as he put down his tea near a stack of papers on the table. Ah, what a lovely surprise. Cut the crap Nezu, you know why I'm here. Aizawa said after closing the door behind them. He put on his usual, never-caring stance, but on the inside he was ready. Yeah, Yamada said energetically, him adopting a tough guy stance. Aizawa gave him the side eye. Why are you here? Aizawa said with a raised eyebrow. You just followed me here and I forgot to ask. For emotional support, yo. Yamada said in a hushed whisper that barely even registered as a whisper. I'ma have your back, no matter what. Aizawa just shook his head in annoyance. Just ignore him. I assume you're here to talk about Monkey D. Luffy. Nezu said as he took a sip of his tea. Oh, please sit down. I want to know exactly what's going on with him. Aizawa said as took a seat on the armchair in front of him. Yamada followed suit, never dropping his tough guy stance. I believe I already explained what happened to Luffy in the past. Nezu said. Truly tragic if you ask me. You can't possibly expect me to believe that again. Aizawa said. Yeah, plus, if he really was experimented on, why is the dude so chipper and happy-go-lucky? Yamada added. If he was forced to fight all his life, you would think he would be more like my friend over here. What's that supposed to mean? Aizawa said insulted. It just doesn't add up, yo. If he was experimented on and kept in the dark about the outside world and peeps in general, how come he's so sociable? Yamada continued, and Aizawa had to agree with him. He's right, and don't you dare say mental break. If that was the case, why isn't he receiving psychiatric support? Aizawa said. And not to mention the fact that I've done several searches in the past few weeks and nothing came up with underground multiple quirk experimentation. It didn't happen. Well, you certainly live up to your reputation, Eraserhead. Nezu said. I knew I made a good decision when I recruited you to this school. Don't try to butter me up, it's not gonna work, so spill. Or I'm going to find out for myself. Aizawa said as Nezu began to take a long sip of tea. After a couple of seconds he put the cup down and sighed. I suppose it was foolish of me to think that I could have kept Luffy's true origins for long. Nezu said and the teachers both raised an eyebrow. True origins? They both thought at the same time. The truth of the matter is that young Luffy is not from here. Nezu said. He never was. Well we kinda expected that. Yamada said. No, you don't understand. When I say from here I don't mean Japan or something like that. Nezu said and in a more solemn voice he said. I mean he's not from Earth. Well, at least not our Earth. Nezu said after a period of nobody saying nothing. Alien? He's an alien. Yamada shouted in complete disbelief. He didn't even register that his glasses fell. Not really. That would imply extraterrestrials. And that's not really the case here. Nezu said as he held a paw up. I knew it. Yamada definitely did not knew it. He got up from his seat and started speaking louder and louder. I knew it was something like that. Would you stop shouting? Aizawa said as he used his scarf to put his ass back on the seat. Now, alien. Really? You really expect me to believe that? Like I said before, not an Ali. Nezu was interrupted. Wait, that actually explains a lot of things. Yamada was the one who interrupted. Oh yeah? Like what? Aizawa said sarcastically, but given his monotone voice, Yamada didn't realize it. Like how Luffy is an idiot and how he has no idea how to hold himself in our society. Yamada explained, and Aizawa agreed with him. And why he has so many weird powers. Well, I guess, but then why does he look like us? Aizawa said. If he was an alien, shouldn't he look at least a little bit different? I said it once and I'll say it again. Nezu said a bit louder to grab their attention. Luffy is not an alien. But you said that he was not from Earth. Yamada said and proved that he was clearly not listening. I said not from this Earth. Nezu said and hoped they listened to him this time. He's from a different universe. A multiverse theory. You're telling me it's true? Aizawa said in disbelief even if he didn't show it. From what I managed to find out. Yes. Nezu said as he took a sip of tea. What do you mean? Aizawa asked. Well, you see, ever since Luffy has arrived here, which was a couple of weeks before the start of this school year, I have spent a considerable amount of money in order to figure out a way to send him home. Don't worry, I only spent money from my own pocket, I didn't use the school's budget. I helped enroll Luffy into our school in a way to keep a watchful eye over him. Nezu said. Any questions? Why are you helping him? Aizawa didn't hesitate. This is a hero school. Heroes help people. Nezu said. Be they human or otherwise. Why didn't you tell us sooner, yo? Yamada said a bit angry. Oh my glasses, that anger turned to embarrassment when he noticed his glasses on the floor. For his safety. And more importantly his Earth safety. Nezu said before adopting a much more serious look. I think that there is a traitor among us and I couldn't be too sure, so I never told anybody. Why did you tell us? Aizawa asked. What if we are traitors? Hey man, don't say that, Yamada said angrily. Aizawa ignored him. I didn't have much of a choice, you storming in here and all. Nezu said. But I do have to ask you to keep this a secret from everybody. At least until we are 100% sure of how the portal that brought Luffy here works. What are you gonna do when you figure out a way to send him home? Aizawa asked. What am I supposed to do? I'll just wish Luffy good luck on becoming the Pirate King and send him off. Nezu said, returning to his usual demeanor. Just like that. Aizawa said. You're going to throw away the key to what could be potentially the biggest discovery of this millennium? I have thought about that. Nezu said. I don't think the risks are worth the reward that a new universe could offer us. I will hold on revealing this discovery to the public until we can be sure that what happened at Kamino Ward won't happen again. I think we should be in good control of our Earth before approaching a new one. Aizawa sighed as he relaxed his whole body, not realizing it had been so tense. I really wish you would have told me sooner. How am I supposed to treat him now? That is for you to decide. You are his homeroom teacher after all. Nezu said as he began organizing a stack of papers. But I do ask that you won't treat him any differently. Alternative universe or not, he is still a child. Is he? Yamada said. What if this other universe has other laws of nature than us? What if he is actually older than all of us? Well, he's clearly not mentally older. Aizawa said as he got off the chair. I don't even know if he's gonna come here. Oh yeah, you still have to talk to some parents, right? Yamada said as he followed after him out the door. Who's next on the list? The topic of our conversation actually. Aizawa said as he closed the door behind them, leaving a quick goodbye to the principal. I wish you luck, make me proud, they heard Nezu say from behind the door. Aizawa felt tired, he always did, but now, he felt even more. He felt his brain overworked, he didn't like the amount of times it felt like that. Yaoyorozu mansion. Hello, welcome. Please come in. You must be the UA teachers, right? A household servant said as she opened the door for All Might and Aizawa. This was a couple of hours after Aizawa's talk with Nezu. We are so very glad to have you. Thank you, All Might said in his deflated form. He felt the servant's gaze linger on him longer than needed, but he couldn't exactly blame her. For her, he was something new, scandalous, and alien. He got in through the door and Aizawa followed after him. This is a very nice place. We're not here for sightseeing. Could you please announce that we have arrived? Our topic is very important, Aizawa said, and the servant did just that. They proceeded to take off their shoes. Wait, where should we wait? Oh, of course, the servant said with a bit of embarrassment. She looked around, not knowing what to do. She couldn't do two things at once. She almost gave up and went to bring a coworker of hers, but thankfully, her saving grace came in the form of a pirate. Oh, sunglasses All Might, what's up? It's been a while, Luffy said after noticing the man startling the servant and All Might. He was coming out of the kitchen with a piece of meat in his mouth, of course. He proceeded to eat the entire piece of meat in one gulp and ran at them. Did he just eat the entire bone? All Might thought with a sweat drop as he saw Luffy run at them. Meanwhile, Aizawa was looking at him very warily. Young Luffy, it's good to see you in such high spirits, All Might said with a smile. He was glad Luffy didn't feel any sort of side effect from his last battle. Guess some things never change, huh? Mr. Luffy, I have to notify Sir Yaoyorozu on their arrival. She said as Luffy pulled to a stop in front of them. Can I count on you to bring them to the main living room? Main living room? Luffy said with a tilt of his head. A big room with a big black window and a bunch of fluffy chairs, the servant said, and Luffy immediately understood. Several servants were forced to learn the language of Luffy, thankfully it wasn't hard. Just imagine a toddler instead of Luffy and you're set. Oh, why didn't you just say so? Luffy said, and the teacher's sweat dropped. They really should have expected this. She proceeded to do a quick bow and left. Follow me, sure. Aizawa didn't have the most trust in him right now, but he couldn't exactly let him see it. So, what have you guys been up to? Luffy asked, bored with the silence. I've been forced to deal with the backlash of our last battle. All Might said. Thank you, by the way, without you. I couldn't even imagine what would have happened. No problem, but I bet you Cold beat him. Luffy said, placing his hand behind the back of his head. He wasn't that big of a deal. If he wasn't, then why did you fight? You clearly know that it's against the laws to fight a villain without a license. Aizawa said, a bit annoyed. Eh? He hurt my friends and stole Boom Boy. What was I supposed to do? Luffy asked. Nothing. You were supposed to do nothing. Aizawa said, but in it went through Luffy's ear and out the other. You don't make any sense. Luffy said as he opened a big door to the living room. As the servant said, it had a big black window aka the TV and a bunch of sofas and bean bags. There was also a coffee table, some bookshelves and just general furniture you would see in the living room. Here, sit down. Luffy proceeded to jump on the beanbag and grab a bag of leftover chips. Aizawa and All Might looked at each other before deciding to follow his example and sit on the sofa. Oh, by the way, if this is supposed to be a surprise party, then it kinda sucks. Luffy said with a mouthful of chips. Surprise party? All Might said. For who? Aizawa asked. For me. Luffy said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. And why would we throw you a party? Aizawa asked as he rubbed his eyebrows. Everybody knows that after a fight you have to celebrate. Luffy said. But I don't sense anyone else here besides you guys. You should be punished, not celebrated, said Aizawa angrily. Why? Luffy said, and Aizawa decided to just drop it, he didn't feel like having deja vu. So where's your good friend young Yaoyorozu? All Might asked in an attempt to fill the silence with something other than Luffy's eating. Oh, she's probably training. Luffy said as he held his chip bag over his mouth to get the last crumbs. She's been doing a lot of that and she's dragging me into it, it's getting kinda annoying. She should be resting, especially after what happened. Aizawa said as he pulled out his phone. That's what I said, Luffy said as he proceeded to fiddle with his straw hat. You have to admire her desire to better herself though. All Might said. Not if it's at the cost of her health. Aizawa said, and All Might found himself agreeing with him. I didn't expect her to be so reckless. Yeah. All Might said with a laugh. They soon heard 3 sets of footsteps walk in through the door. Aizawa put away his phone. Hello gentlemen, I am so sorry to have kept you waiting, me and my wife have recently arrived and we had to prepare ourselves. Mr. Yaoyorozu said, him in the front, Mrs. Yaoyorozu at his side and Momo in the back. They kept the teachers waiting because they were too busy checking on Momo and saying some quick apologies. It's no problem, we're happy to wait. All Might said as he and Aizawa stood up and bowed. The family did the same and quickly sat on a nearby sofa, ready to hear them out. I guess I should start this. All Might said after everyone made themselves comfortable. First of all, I want to apologize. He and Aizawa stood up. On the school's behalf, allow us to apologize for not protecting your daughter and young Luffy. They bowed, and a deep one at that. Because of our mishandling and general lack of power, we were unable to keep your daughter and Luffy in a safe environment and because of that they sustained heavy damage and had to be taken to the hospital. We are deeply sorry for that. Aizawa said and Momo felt frustrated but didn't object to them in any way. We understand and are, of course, exasperated at what the school failed to achieve. Mr. Yaoyorozu said, and before Momo could object. But we also understand that you are human, if you are to be kept responsible for what you failed to achieve, then we, as parents, should also be kept responsible for not checking in on our daughter. But Momo was caught off. Momo please. The adults are talking. Her mom said and turned back to the teachers who were still bowing. You can sit, please. The fact is that we knew what enrolling our daughter into such a school could entail, and truthfully we didn't expect this, but we are also not going to press any charges or hold the school responsible. Mr. Yaoyorozu said. You can be at ease with that. Thank you. They both said at the same time, then Aizawa took the lead. He reached into his suit and grabbed a file. Actually, we have a way to make your daughter's life safer. They all raised an eyebrow when Aizawa plopped the file on the coffee table. The dad took it and opened it. Heights Alliance. It's our way of ensuring the safety of young Luffy and young Yaoyorozu. UA is one of the most secure places in all of Japan. The last place a villain would want to attack is a hero school. All Might said, and Aizawa agreed with him. The dad took a look at the file and then passed it to the mom. Does this mean both Luffy and Momo will go to this dormitory? Mr. Yaoyorozu asked after the mom put the file back on the coffee table. Yes, the dormitories are ready to be used. We can have them there as soon as next week. Aizawa said, hoping they would accept. Every single student we have visited has accepted our offer and are already preparing to move in. We hope we can add Momo and Luffy to that list. So both? Mr. Yaoyorozu asked again. Yes. All Might said, not knowing why they would ask again. Well, Momo, looks like you're going to be living with Luffy at UA. Mr. Yaoyorozu said, having a very hard time keeping his relief happiness in and shocked Momo, Aizawa and All Might. Wait, that easily? Momo asked, a bit weirded out. It wasn't that she was against the idea, more like she was surprised her dad would send her away like that. Mother, I think it would be a great new experience, honey. Mrs. Yaoyorozu said, sadder at the fact that her daughter will be leaving them soon. You know, I was able to make our family's fortune by years and years of studying abroad, and while this is not technically that, it would still prove a major source of experience. That is why we are so willing. Is what Mr. Yaoyorozu said, but what he actually thought is. Finally, I won't have to deal with that idiot again, my house won't get burned down again. Luffy was having a hard time trying to figure out what was happening. Well, I'm glad you accepted our proposal. All Might said, feeling a bit off at the fact that they accepted this so fast, especially with Momo's situation. Yes, I'm also glad that Luffy will finally be gone. Mr. Yaoyorozu caught his words before they could escape. Glad that Luffy and Momo will be closer to school, and more importantly, dreams. Of course. UA will send a copy of this file to your email address. Aizawa said as he got his file back, dismissing his slip-up. Now, onto the next matter at hand. The parents raised an eyebrow at this. They thought they were done. First of all, Luffy's attack against the League. Aizawa said. This the parents knew, but they couldn't exactly punish him since he wasn't theirs to begin with. In an attempt to save his fellow student, Luffy rushed headfirst into the League of Villains headquarters and proceeded to use his power to beat every single League member. He didn't stop there. After being teleported away with a warp quirk, Luffy proceeded to beat the villain all for one, as I'm sure you have seen numerous times in the media. The school body decided to give Luffy a week suspension from school. Whoa, awesome, Luffy said in celebration. What's that? Some kind of food. It means you won't be going to school for a week, Lou. Momo said, a bit saddened at that. She expected Luffy to get some sort of punishment, but she didn't want to go to school alone. Wait, if Luffy is getting one. That's it. Luffy said. What kind of reward is that? It's not a reward, Aizawa said angrily, catching his words this time. It's not a reward, it's a punishment. A punishment? For what? Luffy said, annoyed. He had no idea why he was being punished. Aizawa just sighed, and All Might laughed internally. I understand the context, but I must say. Mr. Yaoyorozu said. This type of punishment feels too light for the crimes he committed. Father Momo said, surprised and mad at her dad for throwing Luffy under the bus. Due to our inability to protect the children and the fact that Luffy had to defend himself, even if it was illegal. Those are the reasons our punishment feels light. Aizawa said. Even if they shouldn't. Now, young Yaoyorozu. All Might said as he pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket and unfolded it, and Momo felt butterflies in her stomach, not the good ones. She used her quirk to defeat a Nomu to save her and a classmate from 1B. Okay, not bad. Momo thought, hoping it wasn't going to go into more detail. She also used her quirk to put a tracker on young Luffy and then proceeded to blackmail me into giving her a ride to Kamino Ward in an attempt to rescue young Luffy and young Bakugo, while also being fully aware of the danger she was putting herself and others in. All Might said, and if Mr. Yaoyorozu had a pair of glasses, they would have fallen there. Oh, crap. Momo thought as she had a hard time not taking her eyes off the floor. Even so, she felt her parents gaze at her. It felt horrible. The school body decided that a punishment fit for her breaking these rules would. All Might paused for dramatic effect as Aizawa rolled his eyes at this. Expulsion. What? Momo and her parents shouted at the same time. Luffy also shouted about a second later because he didn't want to feel left out. Is what I would have said if I hadn't recently just retired. All Might said, and the parents and Momo felt a huge wave of relief wash over them. But she will be suspended for 1 month. Oh, thank God. Mr. Yaoyorozu said he got hit with too many bombshells and he felt his head reeling. Wait, no, what happened? I thought I raised you better. He said as he turned to Momo. What on God's green earth pushed you to do such a thing? Not only did blackmail All Might, but you also went to fight. Why? Well. Hold on, not here in front of the teachers. The mom said, but it didn't stop him. We could do this elsewhere. And blackmail? How could you? That's the greatest sin of all, how could you do that? That's a villain activity. I thought you were a good little girl who didn't break the rules, who always used to study, now what do you do, huh? Now you're in the gym, don't think because I'm not home I don't know. The maids tell me everything they tell me how you're in the gym 24/7 with him. Her dad started going off before stopping for a second and turning to Luffy. It's his fault isn't it? What? No, Momo said, but that didn't stop him. Mr. Yaoyorozu stood up. Every single bad thing that happened has happened ever since he arrived. Mr. Yaoyorozu said as he glared at Luffy. Luffy glared back. Think about it, the USJ, the camp, and now this. You've corrupted my little baby girl. Huh? What are you talking about, old man? Luffy said, getting up from his beanbag. I didn't do anything. Don't play dumb. How many times? Huh? How many times did you make her train? Look, now she's addicted to it. I came to my house just an hour ago, did you know what I find? Her in the gym. Because of you. I didn't make her do anything. Can you even count the number of times you burned down my house? Or is that too much for your brain? I only did it once. She didn't even like you at first. Father, she begged me to throw you out, I should have listened. Look at what you made her do. She knew you were poison, but I was too naive to notice it. I'm not poison. You are poison disguised as honey, and my sweet baby daughter started to transform ever since you came here. She used to keep her nose in her books, now look at what she did, and it's all your fault. I didn't make her come after me, she came by herself. You slithered in here like a snake, took a seat at my house, at my table, and look what you did. I don't even know who or what you are, especially with that white new form of yours, can you even explain what this is? Look old man, I'm sorry for whatever I did, but I didn't do anything. I never made her train or be friends with me or come after me or anything, so stop lying. You're a plague, a pest. I should have thrown you out when I had the chance. You know what? Fine, if you want to throw me out, then I'll just throw myself out. That's now how that works. I don't care, I hate this stupid place anyway. I'm just gonna go, make myself a boat, and live on the seas, like I was born to do. Fine, go, good riddance. Fine, stop. Aizawa said as he used his scarf to stop Luffy from stomping out the house and potentially getting himself killed by drowning. Hey, what's your deal, sunglasses? Let me go, Luffy said as he struggled to get out of the scarf but stopped when he saw Momo's dad walk past him. I'm sorry, I can't do this right now. Mr. Yaoyorozu said with a hand on his forehead as he left the room. Take a seat, Luffy. We still have some stuff to talk about. Aizawa said as he managed to catch Luffy off balance and pulled him into his beanbag. Hey, Luffy said in protest as he tried to get up again but stopped when a bag of chocolates hit his head. What the? Eat that and cool your head. Aizawa said, him being the one who threw the bag of chocolates he bought at the store for a scenario just like this. Of course, he wasn't expecting things to get this much out of control, I don't think anybody did. Good thing I decided to keep some snacks whenever Luffy's involved. Excuse me, gentlemen, I have to go check up on him. Momo's mom said as she also stood up and quickly walked after him. All Might released a tense breath he didn't even knew he was holding. Momo stood tense in her seat. Luffy began to eat with a scowl on his face. Aizawa put his scarf back into place. Oh man, I had no idea that would escalate that far. All Might said. I'm sorry, young Luffy, I had no intention of getting you caught in the crossfire. What even was his deal? He acted like I was some kind of bad guy. Saying poison this and Momo that. Luffy said with a mouthful. I didn't even do anything. The parents' love is one of the things few can rival. Aizawa said. Of course he would be mad, from his perspective, you've corrupted his daughter. I didn't corrupt anything, right, Momo? Luffy said, and after not getting a response. Momo, what? Yeah, I mean yes. Momo said as she felt water start to pool in her eyes. Wow, I've never been scolded before. Anyway, would you stop me, sunglasses? Luffy said as he finished his chocolates. Well, I don't know if you know, but you are the school's responsibility, which means you're my responsibility. I just can't let you wander around freely. Aizawa said, knowing that Luffy is not from here, he definitely did not want to have him lost. You're going to have to stay put here. Huh? Well, I don't know if you know, but I just left this stupid place. Where am I supposed to go? Luffy said, confused. Isn't it obvious? All Might said, referring to the dorms. But I thought you needed my father's signature for that. Momo said, now recovered. After this whole act, I think it's safe to say that Luffy is now back in UA's hands from now on. Aizawa said as he got some eyedroppers. Which means you'll be at the school's beck and call, and more importantly, at my beck and call. You betrayed my trust, in order to gain that back, you'll need to obey every rule to the letter. That means no more lawbreaking, no more fooling around, no more anything. I tell you what to do and how to do it, eh? I'm not doing that, Luffy said in protest as he punched the beanbag. That goes against being a pirate. I don't care. You're going to do it and you're going to do it well. Aizawa said with a tone of finality. I don't want to hear any more of this. We'll see about that. Luffy said in a whisper. What was that? Aizawa heard it. I said we'll see about that, Luffy said, and Aizawa really felt like punching something right now, and Luffy's face looked perfect for that. You lit. Aizawa was interrupted. I'm sorry, I'm back. Mrs. Yaoyorozu said as she quickly walked in the room and to a seat near Momo. Unfortunately, we'll have to continue this discussion with just us five. Is everything alright? All Might asked out of concern. Yes, my husband just feels a little under the weather right now. Mrs. Yaoyorozu said. Yeah, I bet. Aizawa, Momo, and All Might thought at the same time. Now, getting back to our conversation. Mrs. Yaoyorozu said before a deep breath. Momo's going to be suspended for 1 month. It should have been more than that. I hope you'll be able to discipline her correctly so that she makes sure she never repeats such a thing again. Aizawa said. Of course, I'll make sure she gets punished accordingly. Mrs. Yaoyorozu said and Momo whimpered. Don't you have anything left to say for yourself? I know what I have done wrong and I'll do my best to rectify that. All I can say now is that I am sorry. Momo said as she stood up and bowed low. She knew what she did was wrong and she apologized for it even if she didn't like it. She protected her best friend, that's all that matters to her. That's good. What I said to Luffy also applies to you, you'll have to work hard to regain the school's trust, you, Luffy, and Todoroki. Aizawa said as he stood up, along with All Might. Make the school and yourself proud by overcoming this punishment and coming back stronger than ever. We'll see ourselves out. Young Yaoyorozu, know that I don't blame you. All Might said as Aizawa left. If I were in your situation, I probably wouldn't have gone that far, but I know why you did it and I respect that. That doesn't mean I approve of it, but I understand. Goodbye, I'll see you all at school. See you later, Luffy said with a wave. Momo plopped back onto the sofa. Momo, I don't like what you did. I want you to know that. Momo's mom said in a motherly voice. I'm sure your father is going to give you hell later, so I'm not going to scold you. I just want you to know that I'm here for you. Of course. Momo said and then Momo's mom got up. I'm going to check up on him. If anyone deserves scolding, it's him if you ask me. Yaoyorozu said. Doing that in front of your teacher, he must be insane. Does he even realize how much face we lost? Hey Momo. Said Luffy. Yeah, Lou, what's High Alliance? That's where we're going to live. Momo didn't bother to correct him. We're going to live at school. Awesome together, the whole class. Cool. Heights Alliance. A week later. Whoa, this place looks awesome, Luffy said as he and Momo spotted their new place of residence, all 5 floors that they were going to live in. Oh, hey look, there's everybody. We're the last to arrive. Momo said as Luffy called out to the rest of the class. Hi guys, it's been a while, Luffy said excitedly. That's when they saw him. Luffy rap, pretty much everybody shouted, most of the students ran at him and nearly knocked him down, almost dragging Momo with him. Whoa, what happened? Luffy asked, confused. Don't what happened? Me, what the hell happened to you? Kaminari asked, super excited. Last I saw you was the last time I looked on my phone, dude, you're a huge hit. Huh? Luffy said, soon a circle formed around him and Momo made out with their classmates. Hit? Who was hit? Why didn't you respond to any of our messages? Mina asked angrily. Yeah, we've been messaging you and Momo non-stop. What the heck, man? Hagakure asked, frustrated. Don't you ever check your phone? Phone? Luffy said with a tilt of his head. What's that? Okay, we should have expected that. Mineta said with a sweat drop. But not you, Mina said as she pointed at Momo. Yeah, why didn't you ever respond? Did something happen? Asui asked, worried. Or maybe it was what you did. Uraraka said, still a little mad at Momo, but happy that she didn't face any serious repercussions. No, it's nothing like that. I just got Momo was feeling very embarrassed right now. Overwhelmed? Jiru asked, feeling disappointed. Are you serious? Zero asked, feeling just as disappointed. Well, I never got so many messages before and I didn't really know how to respond and I'm sorry, Momo said quickly and did a small bow. That's embarrassing, Momo, Luffy said with a laugh. Shishishi. Oh, that reminds me, Kaminari said due to his laughter that he probably heard 1,000 times by now. Can you actually fly? Fly? Luffy said, confused. Yeah dude, when you're all white and stuff, can you do that again? Zero asked, getting closer to Luffy. Can you turn the ground to rubber? Kirishima said, also invading Luffy's personal space. Yeah, but I have to go Gear 5 first. Luffy said, which made Izuku pull out a notebook out of seemingly nowhere. Wow, does that mean there are only 5 gears? Is that all there is or are there more? How do you fly, by the way? Do you somehow rubberize the air or is it another quirk or maybe hockey? Is your whole 5th gear a different quirk or is it somehow related to your rubber quirk? Or does it have to do something with water? Why is your heartbeat so loud? Even through all of the helicopter noise, it was pretty clear to hear. Izuku muttered quickly. Luffy didn't even spot him because he was so short. I wrote down some hero stuff about your 5th gear, could you take a look at it later? Everybody make some space, our class representative needs his space, Iida said as he tried to push away the people that were suffocating Luffy, but it didn't work. Hey, can you go 5th gear for me really quick? Please, Mina said as she got out her phone. 1 second of you and I'll become famous, can you please do it? Zero asked, equally as curious. I have to say, I'm quite curious about it as well. Tokoyami said, doing a far better job at hiding his curiosity. Yeah, I bet it's super, mainly Kirishima said. All in all, everybody was interested, even the kids who weren't at the circle wanted to see it. Wait, he can't just do it, he'll get old Momo. Try of help was suffocated by her other classmates. This continued for about 10 more seconds before Luffy finally having enough and gave in. Fine, I'll do it, Luffy yelled, which made the students get off of him. Soon they made a bigger circle around him, many with phones in hand and someone with a notebook. Gear 5th. What the hell did I say? Aizawa said as he slapped Luffy mid-transformation, making him face plant the ground. Did you really forget everything I talked about? Mr. Aizawa, everybody said when they noticed him and quickly hid away their phones. What's this? A circus? Aizawa said sarcastically in his monotone voice as he got to the front of the staircase. No, this is Jew. Everybody to the front of the staircase now, I don't want to repeat myself. He said and everybody quickly followed. Momo had to peel Luffy off the ground, looking half dead. Now, given everything that has happened, I'm glad we were able to bring Class 1 back together. And to make myself clear, you should not and will not ask Luffy to do any other tricks or transformation again, am I clear? Aizawa said as everybody got in front of him. He didn't want Luffy to try any of his otherworldly powers again unless he absolutely has to. He didn't want to risk the consequences. But Mr. Aizawa, am I clear? Aizawa said with his cape floating and red eyes. Yes sir. Everybody said, they were disappointed. Good. Now I'll explain how your dorm assignments will work shortly. First, however, we haven't forgotten about the provisional hero licenses you were supposed to get. Aizawa said. Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that part. Kaminari said. So much has happened, I guess it slipped our minds. Mina said. This is important, listen well, Yaoyorozu, Todoroki. You two are the ones who broke the rules and went to rescue Luffy and Bakugo that night. Aizawa said and most of the class stood warily. They found out later through messaging each other. At first most of the people thought they were joking, but one message from Todoroki that said it's true. And they believe him. They got to ask him this morning more about it, but he didn't say any specifics. Based on your reaction, I suspect at least some of you were at least aware of their plan. I'm going to set aside a number of issues and just say this, if it weren't for All Might's retirement and Luffy's unofficial debut, I would expel this entire class. I've gotten too much trouble for what it's worth. You'll have to live as model students to regain our trust. Aizawa said and the air felt heavy, they didn't expect the backlash to fall on all of them. That's all, now look alive. Enjoy your new home. We're supposed to be excited after that. Almost everybody thought at the same time. So, what happened, Momo? Mina asked, everybody was interested. We asked Todoroki, but he's being stingy with the details. Yeah, we really want to know. Kaminari asked. Well, I kinda, maybe, sorta, only a little blackmailed All Might into giving me and Todoroki to Kamino Ward. Momo said while rubbing her arm in embarrassment. What? Everybody said at the same time, even Uraraka, Asui and Shoji were surprised by this. They knew she did something, they didn't know she did this. BBB blackmailed. All Might. Izuku said he didn't want to believe it. I can't tell if that's bad, but I'll tell you what. Kirishima said excitedly. It's totally badass. That's some villain stuff. Zero said, frightened. He quickly got stabbed with an earplug. Don't say that, you idiot. That's mean, Jiru said before turning to Momo. But I didn't expect you to do it. Like seriously, no wonder he didn't say anything. Shoji said as he looked at Todoroki looking dead as ever on the outside. It's really not that big of a deal as you make it seem to be. Momo said in a pacifying manner. I just wanted to help Lou out. There are better ways to help somebody, Uraraka almost screamed. You could have gotten really hurt. So could Luffy, Momo countered. That guy's a freak of nature. I doubt anything can hurt him. Kirishima said as he watched Bakugo unleash a small explosion point blank in his face. Ouch, that looked like it hurt. Lou, what happened? Momo asked, concerned. Did he say something to you? Did you say something to him? Kaminari asked Luffy with an ashy face. He just thanked me. I don't get why he got so mad. Luffy said as he rubbed the ash from his face. What did you say to him? Asui asked. I said that I knew he was a big softy on the inside. Luffy said. This made some students giggle. That would do it. Zero said, him being the one who found it funny. Everybody come in, enough chit-chatting outside. Aizawa said as he unlocked the door to the dorms. Each student dormitory holds one class. Girls are on the right and boys are on the left. The entire first floor is a common area, that's where you'll find your kitchens, baths and laundry rooms. Wow, this looks awesome, where's the food? Luffy asked the thing on his mind. Oh no, with Luffy here, we're probably going to starve to death, Zero said worried. Under a tight lock with a secret combination key, one which I gave to Iida. Aizawa said, which immediately put the students at ease. Don't think I don't know how you operate, eh? How am I supposed to get food? What if I go hungry? Luffy said way over the top. Don't care. Aizawa said and walked away from Luffy. This feels like I'm living in a mansion, Uraraka said, barely believing her eyes. It's so big, a bit smaller than I expected. Momo said, which Uraraka overheard and felt her jaw leave her mouth. It's so spacious, Mina said as she looked through the window walls. Living quarters start on the next floor, 4 boys and 4 girls on each level. Everyone gets their own room, you should be comfortable, you get your own AC, toilets, mini fridges and closets. The class went to one of the rooms to check it out. We even have balconies, wow, Izuku said as he looked over the balcony. I can see everything awesome, Luffy said as he squatted on the railings. Whoa, easy, you might fall, Izuku said worried at the way Luffy was standing. Shushi, don't be such a baby, Luffy said as he slapped Izuku's back and almost made him fall over the balcony. Were you okay? Midoriya Iida shouted worriedly. I might actually die living with Luffy, Izuku thought as he felt his heart jump out of his chest. Here are your dorm assignments. Aizawa said as he handed the students a piece of paper to where everyone will be living. Now get to work and unpack, you have until 07 PM. 1915. Oh man, I'm beat, Kirishima said as he plopped on the sofa like an old man. You and me both, you done unpacking? Zero said, also sitting on the sofa. Pretty much. Kirishima said. Feels good, huh? Izuku said, also sitting on the sofa. I know we cold it died, but it's kinda exciting to be living here, Kaminari said as he stood on an armrest. It's gonna be awesome to be living all together, Luffy said, him sitting on the back of the sofa. Exactly, it's the perfect way to increase our cooperation and discipline, how smart, Iida said through a series of robotic hand movements. So you never relax. Do you? Kirishima said to Iida. You boys all done with your rooms? Mina said as she and the rest of the girls came into the common space. Yup, it was super exhausting. Luffy said, now sitting backwards on a sofa. Well, the girls and I have been talking, and Mina said excited. We have a great idea, Hakager said, equally as excited. Let's go around and see who has the coolest room. As soon as Mina said that, Izuku, Mineta and Tokoyami instantly froze. Yeah, let's do it, Luffy said as he hopped from his sofa. I bet I'm gonna win. Ho, we'll see about that, Kirishima said, ready to take the challenge on. They started walking towards their nearest one. Okay, so, going after the list, the first one is, Mina said as she pulled out her phone. Midoriya, Izuku's room. No, please don't go in there, Midoriya said, but it didn't work seeing as Luffy was already in the room. Crap. Oh my god, it's All Might, Luffy said as he looked at the room plastered with All Might merchandise. He started laughing and this did not help Izuku feel better. Everything's All Might. Wow, you're such a fanboy, Uraraka said as she looked at a wall filled with posters of All Might. I just admire him, Izuku said with a tomato red face. Hey? What happens when I do this? Luffy said with a figurine with All Might in hand. No, please don't touch that, that's a collector's edit, Izuku said. Luffy twisted the head off. Whoops, Izuku screamed and tried his best to put it back together. Tokoyami's room. No way. Tokoyami said as he stood in front of the door. Luffy walked up to him and just picked Tokoyami up by the waist and put him aside. Whoa, this looks awesome, Luffy said as he looked at a room filled with dark and scary stuff. So scary, Mina and Hakager said. You fiends, Tokoyami said as he shaked uncontrollably. Oh man, I had a keychain like this in middle school, Kirishima said as he picked a cross keychain with a skull on it. Hey, look at me, Luffy said as he got a fake skull and put it in front of his face. I'm dead. Yo-ho-ho-ho, please leave. Tokoyami said, feeling miserable. A sword, Izuku said when he noticed a classic sword. So cool. Get out, Tokoyami finally snapped. Aoyama's room. I can't see, it's so bright, Luffy said as he had to shield his eyes from all of the bright disco lights. Expected, to be honest. Mina said, already leaving. Doesn't surprise me. Kaminari said, also leaving. Okay, so, next one is Uraraka was cut off. Come on in, girls. Mineta said as he emitted pure creep aura. I've got so much to show you. So, skip? Mina asked as they went up the stairs. Yeah, total skip. Hakager agreed. Ajiro's room. Looks the same. Luffy said as he looked at the room that didn't change at all. Very normal. Mina said, trying to look impressed. Did you forget to unpack? Hakager said, not needing to hide her face. Can we go now? Ajiro said, not liking the critic he was receiving. Iida's room. Wow, it looks like a library in here, Mina said as she looked at the room filled with books and with a shelf filled with glasses. You'll find nothing odd in here, Iida said. Ugh, books? I don't like books. Luffy said as he picked a book and immediately felt like sleeping. But books are an important part of our lives, they hold meaning and wisdom. Iida said in the defense of books. It just makes me sleep. Luffy said as he threw the book on the bed. Kaminari's room. Wow, so many hats, Luffy said as he took a hat from a hat rack. He placed it on top of his straw hat. Do you wear all hats like that? Asui asked, weirded out. Yeah, Luffy said with a smile. Come on guys, at least say something about the room, Kaminari said annoyed. Koda's room. Wow, so you also have emergency food. Luffy said when he noticed the rabbit. Koda quickly placed himself as a wall between Luffy and the rabbit. He shook his head violently. Oh, so you want to eat it? Luffy asked, to which Koda shook his head even more. By the way, where's Bakugo? Jiru asked as Mina and Hakuger had to defend the rabbit from Luffy. I feel like I haven't seen him at all. He's catching on some sleep, guess he must have been tired from all the unpacking. Kirishima said as they left the room. Shoji's room. Wow, there's nothing here, Luffy said as he looked at the empty room with nothing but a desk and a futon. So you're a minimalist, huh? Todoroki asked. I just never understood why people had to fill their room with junk. Shoji said as he looked back only to see everybody already gone. Zero's room. So exotic, Mina said as she looked at the very foreign-looking room. I love it, Uraraka said with enthusiasm. A hammock, awesome, so you got one too, huh? Luffy said when he noticed a low-hanging hammock. What, you also got one? Zero asked curiously. Ah, you'll see, Luffy said as he turned to leave the room. Todoroki's room. Do we really have to do this? Todoroki said as they approached his door. Ah, don't worry, I'm sure yours will be. Uraraka was interrupted. Wow, so Japanese, Mina said when she noticed a very Japanese-like room. You know, this kinda reminds of the land of Wano. Luffy said as he looked at a paper wall. The one with the samurais? Kirishima asked, already being told dozens of stories from Wano by Luffy. Yup, but this is a lot less colorful. Luffy said as he exited the room. Okay, so the last but definitely not least is Uraraka said as he pulled out her phone. The rep. Luffy's room. You put your logo on your door? Kirishima said as he noticed the straw hat Jolly Roger on Luffy's door. I saw it a bunch of times on your hero outfit. Jiru said as Luffy opened the door. Is that supposed to be your Jolly Roger? You bet it is. Luffy said as he walked in through the door. Everybody was surprised that it wasn't just a huge meat fridge. Whoa dude, you really like your pirate theme, don't you? Zero said before noticing the hammock which replaced his bed. So this is what you were talking about. Wow, so awesome Todoroki, Tokoyami, check this out, Kirishima said as he motioned Todoroki to a dresser. Look, 3 Japanese swords, cool. Tokoyami said, he liked the swords. But why are there 3? Those must have cost a fortune. Todoroki said, he admittedly was impressed, even if he didn't show it. I helped Luffy a bit with decorating and stuff. Momo said, to which the 2 boys nodded. They were surprised she was willing to spend money on stuff like this. Oh, so cute, reindeer plushie, Mina said as she noticed it standing next to a pirate ship and a bottle. Can't sleep without Yao Whittle baby toy. Hakuger said in a baby voice. Representative, I demand answers. You ridiculed me for having books, but look, you have books of your own, Iida said as he pointed to a small bookshelves. And not only that, but they are archaeology books. What is the meaning of this? A slingshot. Kaminari said as he picked up a green slingshot from the table and started to play with it. I haven't seen one of these in ages. The classical violin. And an electric guitar. Jiru said as she noticed the 2 instruments hanging on the wall. Do you even know how to play these? An orange tree. Asui said when she saw an orange tree hidden in a corner of the room. Are you sure you can take care of it? I guess free oranges don't ruin anything. You have a karate guy, Ajiro said as he took a look in the closet. I've never seen you practice any martial arts, though. Wow, look at this, a ship and a bottle. I heard these are pretty hard to make. Midoriya said as he carefully lifted it from the desk. Is that a lion on the front? Nah, it's a sunflower. Shoji said as he squinted his eyes at it. I think. Koda was seen pointing worriedly at a microwave. He wasn't sure if Luffy could or should operate it. Wow, dirty mags, Uraraka said as she opened a drawer and saw a bunch of NSFW magazines. I didn't know you were into this kinda stuff. I didn't know he was into anything. Mineta said as he warped near Uraraka, giving her a heart attack. Hey Rep, think I can borrow these? Rep? Mineta asked again. Actually, most of them asked questions, but neither of them got answers. They looked at him and he looked frozen in time, unable to move. Blue? Are you okay? Momo said as she gave him a small push, waking him up to reality. Lu? Huh? What? Yeah, I'm fine. What's up? Luffy said as he looked at Momo, who in turn looked worried. Nothing, is everything okay? Momo asked worriedly. Ah, of course everything is okay, why wouldn't it be? Everything's awesome, Luffy said forced. He quickly slapped his face with both palms before doing a 180 and walking out the room. Suu, whose room is it next? I can't wait to see it. Well, that was Uraraka said as they all stared at the open door. Weird. Mina said, with a hint of worry in her voice. Super weird. I've never seen the dude like that before. Kaminari said as he put down the slingshot. Yeah, Momo. And no, well, at least I don't think so. Momo said as she looked on worriedly. It's just more of the rep being a weirdo. There's nothing new about that. Mineta said as he walked out the room with some magazines in his shirt. Let's just go. Hey, Uraraka said as he bonked him on the head. Those aren't yours. Yes, ma'am. Mineta said as he nursed a bump on his head. Jiru's room. Wow, so many instruments, Uraraka said as she looked at the room filled with several instruments. Did we really have to do this? Jiru said, embarrassed. She didn't like people in her personal space. Look at this cool guitar. Luffy said he picked up an electric guitar. You know who would really like it here? Brook. Luffy found his words got stuck in his throat. He put the guitar slowly back into place. This is so punk rock, Hakuger said, impressed. Can you play all of these? Mina asked, amazed. Yeah, at least a little. Jiru said as she hit the end of her earplugs together. Hakuger's room. This is for sure girly. Kaminari said as he walked into a room that one could describe as pink. I like it, Luffy said with a thumbs up, which Hakuger returned, not that he could see it. Mina's room. Isn't it super cute, Mina said as they all looked at a red and black style room. Wow, so much makeup, Kirishima said as he opened a suitcase filled with makeup. Hey, don't touch that, Mina said, annoyed. Uraraka's room. Yeah, sorry, my room's not very interesting. Uraraka said as she scratched the back of the head. Looks the same. Luffy said as he looked at the room that didn't change at all. Wow, I just got deja vu, Kaminari said with a chill up his hands. Asui's room. Wow, so green, Mina said as she looked at a room filled with plants and green color. I love nature, what can I say? Asui said. The last one up is Yaoyorozu. Kaminari said, leaving the room. Love the room too. Yaoyorozu's room. The thing is, I might have miscalculated the proportions and oh well. She opened her door to a room with a bed that occupied like 60% of it. That bed is huge, Kaminari said in surprise. Luffy, get down, that thing is not a trampoline, Uraraka said in annoyance, but was stopped by Momo. It's fine, I got used to it. Momo said with a smile, but that only served as a mask to hide her worry. Sometimes I forget they live together. Some of the students thought. Soon, they all left to count the votes. Common area. Alright everybody, now that everyone's got their votes in, it's time to decide the winner, Mina said as she held a bowl with a bunch of pieces of paper. And now, without further ado, here are the results of the first who has the coolest room. Minus Bakugo. Drumroll please. But the tie between two of our students, each getting 5 votes, is Todoroki and Luffy, Mina said with showman voice. Congratulations. Woohoo, let's go, Luffy said excitedly, while Todoroki looked as dead as ever. Come on ice boy, liven up a little, Luffy said as he took Todoroki on his shoulder and played mechanical bull with him. Can we go to sleep now? Todoroki asked in his usual monotone voice. Most people giggled at this. Congrats guys, Kirishima said, looking amused. What do we win? Luffy said as he threw Todoroki on the couch. You win the grand total prize of, Mina said, making a makeshift drum roll out of an armrest. Nothing, eh? How does that make sense? Luffy said in a sulk. People laughed at this too. All in all, it was a good first day of the dorms, well, depending on who you'd ask. Man, am I tired? Kaminari said with a stretch. Let's just all go to sleep. You said it. Zero said as he and everybody went to each of their rooms. Everybody don't forget to brush your teeth, dental hygiene is incredibly important, Iida said as he mimicked a toothbrush being used. He was mostly ignored. Good night everyone. Good night, Momo said with a wave before catching a glimpse of Luffy. Good night, Lou. Luffy didn't turn back, he just waved absent-mindedly as he went on his way. Momo found that weird, she expected Luffy to do an over-the-top wave like he always did. What's going on? 1:32 a.m. Common area. Oh man, I forgot to bring a water bottle, and my room doesn't even have a fridge. Momo thought as she went downstairs to grab a cup of water. She was walking in the dark, using just a small flashlight for light. That's what I get for choosing such a big bed, I guess. Heavy sniffs. She heard something that sounded a lot like crying, it was coming from the sofa. She turned her flashlight to the sofa and she saw Luffy sniffing and sobbing into a pillow. Momo quickly ran at him. Blue? What happened? Why are you crying? Momo said, agitated as she sat on the couch next to Luffy. The straw hat was on the coffee table. She looked at Luffy and the wet patch he made on the pillow, he was shivering uncontrollably. Momo couldn't make heads or tails. 99% of the time, Luffy was your average happy-go-lucky guy with a distinct lack of common sense, the other time he was a serious, hardened war veteran. Now he was this, crying. CC crying. Sob who's crying. Sniff I'm sob and not. Luffy tried to lie, he was starting to hyperventilate. He felt like he didn't have air, he felt like all the air was sucked out of him and he couldn't get any, as much as he tried. Okay, calm down. Just breathe, okay? Take a deep breath. Momo tried to help in any way she could. She soon found herself doing her best to calm Luffy down. After about 2 minutes of uncontrollable breathing, Luffy finally managed to take level breaths. Okay, good. Are we good now? Momo said to Luffy, to which he responded with a shaky nod. That's what I like to hear. Now, can you please tell me why you are crying? Just take your time. Momo said in as motherly a tone as she could. She found out that she hated seeing Luffy in this form. I don't know. Luffy said, and this time, he was being honest. I don't, seriously I don't know. Sniff. It's okay, I believe you. Just tell me what happened. Tell me the last thing you remember before crying, could you do that for me please? I just got into my room, sniff and I looked around and then I felt water on my feet. I just started crying, I saw my room and I just broke down, I didn't want to wake anybody up, so I just ran. I ran as fast as I could. Sniff and I found myself here. It just hurts. So much. Luffy said as past tears threatened to fall from his eyes again. He hated it, he hated crying. He only cried when sad things happened, but nothing sad happened now, so why is he crying? I miss them. Momo said, finding it hard to listen to Luffy right now, but it would be worse if she had to leave. Miss who? Them my friends. I miss them so much, sniff I can't take it anymore. Luffy said and he found his vision blurry again, he felt the tears run past his cheeks, but he didn't care about that. I hate it, and I hate it so much I hate that I don't know where they are I hate that I can't see them anymore. I hate that I don't know if they'll come back, sob. Luffy didn't even feel Momo's embrace or her caressing his back. He didn't feel anything. Right now, he only felt sadness. I hate that I don't know if they're looking for me and I hate this stupid place, I hate that I can't be a pirate. I hate that I can never meet Shanks again, I hate that I can't meet Sabo again. I hate it. I hate that I can't become the king of the pirates. And so, Luffy listed all the things he hated. Even if he repeated them, he didn't care. He felt like weights were being lifted from his body. Soon, the moon fell over them, and the cold, dead air of the night was filled only with Luffy's sobs and Momo's words of reassurance. Chapter 20. Empty. UA dorms. 7:20 a.m. Momo woke up as a ray of sunlight hit her eyes. Shielding them with one hand, she wondered, is it morning already? She almost dropped Luffy from her embrace, but managed to catch him without waking him up. Oh, Lu, what am I going to do with you? She asked herself. They had stayed on the couch all night, Luffy had fallen asleep crying, and Momo didn't have the heart to wake him up or put him back in his room. She looked at his cheeks, which were still red from crying. Then, she glanced at the straw hat on the table and sighed. She knew that whatever was happening with Luffy right now would be a major change in his personality. Whether the change would be good or bad, she couldn't say. Finally, she noticed her phone and grabbed it. 7. Already? She exclaimed out loud, she quickly put a hand over her mouth when she realized she basically yelled. Thankfully, Luffy didn't even stir in his sleep. He's still exhausted from all that crying. Now Momo was sad. But now was not the time for her to be sad, now was the time for her to take her ass out of there. At any minute, any of her fellow classmates could barge into the common area and she didn't want them to see Luffy in such a vulnerable state, so she'll have to take Luffy back to her room. She couldn't take him back to his room for obvious reasons. She quickly got her phone and placed it in her back pocket, she grabbed the straw hat and placed it back on Luffy's head and she gently grabbed him and ran to the stairway on the right side. That one was closer to her room and with fewer chances of bumping into her classmates. As she set foot on the stairway she heard the elevator doors opening. Damn, here? Already? She tried to send a wave of observation hockey, but her drowsiness, plus her lack of energy from sleeping in such an uncomfortable position, made it difficult for her to use the little that she knew. You just have to go up 5 stories. No big deal. She encouraged herself, but as they say, easier said than done, or thought than done in this case. A few close calls later, and one where she smacked Luffy's head on a wall, she found herself in her room. Panting, she slowly closed the door behind her, and with a deep breath, she finally relaxed. She considered herself lucky that she's got a suspension now. Now she can just go back to sleep instead of worrying about lessons. I just need to figure out where I put Lu. Knock knock knock, her train of thought was interrupted when she heard knocks on her door. Feeling dread creep into her mind, she quickly tossed Luffy into a nearby closet. Sorry Lu, and threw herself in bed. Maybe she's still asleep. Momo heard a female voice from the other side of the door. At this hour? On a school day? Be serious. Momo heard another female voice. We already tried knocking once a while ago, but we thought that she was asleep, so we let her be. Maybe we should just leave. But what if she's missing? What if she's somewhere with a rep? The boy said he also wasn't responding. I'm not surprised he wasn't responding. I'm pretty sure the rep could sleep through a tornado. Knock knock knock, Momo heard another pair of knocks. Deciding that they probably wouldn't leave until they made sure she was here, she responded in her best "I was just asleep" voice. "Yeah?" she said weakly while not getting up from her bed. "Momo, it's me, Yaoyorozu, are you awake?" Apparently, Yaoyorozu was one of the voices. "I am now." Momo responded. "Oh, sorry about that." Yaoyorozu said with an apologetic tone in her voice. "Can we come in?" "Yeah. You can." Momo said after thinking it over for a bit. They'll probably leave faster if they got visual confirmation that Momo was here. But as soon as the door started opening, Luffy's still asleep body fell out of the closet. What was that? "Never mind, don't come in," Momo suddenly yelled as she jumped out of the bed and forcibly closed the door in the girls' faces. "Huh? Hey," the other girl said, annoyed. "What was that for?" "Don't worry about it," Momo said as she used her whole body to block the door. "Just a bunch of books fell." "Books?" "Yeah, books, it's a real mess. I'd hate it if you guys saw my place like this," Momo said, fully forgotten about the fact that she was supposed to act sleepy. "Just tell me here, what's up?" First period starts in a couple of minutes, if you don't hurry up you'll miss it," Yaoyorozu said worriedly. "Almost everyone's ready to go, so you know we were just worried." Wait, you guys don't know," Momo said, genuinely confused. "Todoroki didn't tell you." "Tell us what?" The other girl, who Momo figured out it was Jiru, said. "Me, Luffy and Todoroki are suspended from school. That was our punishment for going against the rules." Momo said. "What? Eh?" They both said at the same time, clearly taken aback. "I mean, it's obvious we would get punished for breaking the rules." Momo said. She started moving away from the door and grabbed Luffy. "Yeah, no, that's not. So that's why the boys can't get the rep and Todoroki to wake up. They probably slept in," Yaoyorozu said while making a Nuo face. "Azawa never told us, you never told us," Jiru said, feeling slightly offended at being left out. Sorry. Must have slipped my mind, with the moving in the dorms and all." Momo said as she placed Luffy gently on the inside of her bed. "So, what are you gonna do now?" Yaoyorozu asked. "Probably try to go back to sleep, after that I'll hit the books or something," Momo said. "I see. Well, good luck with it I guess," Jiru said as her voice grew distant. "Come on Yaoyorozu, we disturbed her long enough." "Yeah, you're right, sorry Momo, we'll tell the boys the news and stuff," Yaoyorozu said as her voice also grew distant. "Bye." "Goodbye," Momo said, not knowing if they actually heard her or not. At least now, her worry about bumping into others is gone. She took a look at Luffy and estimated at least another couple of hours when he'll still be asleep. She was thankful for that, he needed the sleep. Knowing she couldn't take Luffy back to his room and being way too tired to make an extra bed, she decided to let Luffy sleep on the far side of the bed while she was sleeping on the opposite side. At least she'll be able to keep an eye on Luffy like that. After that breakdown, he's going to need some emotional support. After taking one last look at Luffy, she closed the curtains and hopped into bed. She couldn't have slept for more than half an hour before the window suddenly opened, waking her up. "Why?" she said drowsily. She looked at Luffy only for him not to be there. "He jumped out the window," she quickly concluded. "Wait, Luffy." Nezu's office. "Ah, nothing better than a good cup of tea to start the day," Nezu thought as he jumped on his seat. Now, with all these student reports, Nezu's thoughts were interrupted by a hatless pirate bursting through the window, scattering glass shards everywhere. Luffy was in his pajamas that looked similar to his usual clothes, he was also barefooted. "Whoa, young Luffy," Nezu said, startled. The thing that also surprised him was Luffy's new expression, one he didn't think he would see on Luffy of all people, a grim and desperate one. "You please tell me you found out how I got here and how I can go back, please tell me you found a way," Luffy said in a desperate voice as he grabbed Nezu and held him to eye level. "Excuse," Nezu said while trying to get Luffy to put him down, but was interrupted by him. No excuses, I'm being very serious here," Luffy said as anger started to seep into his demeanor. "Tell me right now if you found a way." After a couple of silent seconds where Luffy's sharp eyes stared daggers at Nezu said. "Unfortunately, I couldn't find a way." As soon as he said this, the fire that burned in Luffy's eyes, the same one that witnessed Shanks putting his straw hat on Luffy, the same one that saw Luffy's arrival in the Grand Line, the same one that saw Ace's death, the same one that persisted through all of his trials and tribulations from the moment he was born to this very second, extinguished. With a sharp intake of breath, he dropped Nezu while staring at nothingness. "I did all that I could up until now, I spent a large amount of money to figure out something, but I haven't found anything new, I'm afraid," Nezu said while straightening his suit. Luffy didn't move from his spot. "But don't be afraid. This doesn't mean I've given up. I'll still do my utmost to find a way to get you back home, Luffy. That's a promise. As a hero, I can't afford to give up hope and neither can you. I won't assume to know what happened for your sudden outburst, but I can see that you're hurt. Just remember that you're not alone here, and even if everyone abandons your side, I'll still be here to help you. So whatever you do, don't give up." Nezu finished his monologue, thinking he did some sort of damage control. Unbeknownst to him, Luffy's mind only kept replaying the words "I couldn't find a way" over and over and over again in his head. Without a word, Luffy suddenly started walking towards the busted window. "Young Luffy, your feet," Nezu said worriedly when he saw Luffy's feet getting cut by the broken glass on the ground. He left behind bloody footprints as he approached the window, but Luffy looked like he didn't even feel the cuts. Luffy, grabbing the sides of the window and putting one foot on the window's broken frame, jumped, slicing his hands and making a deep cut in his leg. "This is bad, we're on the 6th floor." Nezu said as he quickly ran to the window and looked out to see Luffy face planting the concrete, making some cracks in the ground. Due to his power, Luffy didn't receive any sort of damage, but he was also not moving. At times like these, it's best to let the close ones deal with it. Nezu thought as he dialed Momo and Aizawa. The first one to pick up was Momo, then Aizawa. "Nezu, in case you don't know, I'm a teacher, therefore I'm in the middle of classes. This better be important." Aizawa said, frustrated while trying to keep the class quiet. "Mr. Nezu, Mr. Aizawa, weird question, but you haven't happened to see Luffy wandering around, right?" Momo said while she paced back and forth in her room. "That is actually the reason I've called. I don't know what happened, but Luffy suddenly busted through the window of my office, looking very deranged, demanding I tell him what I know about the portal that brought him here," Nezu said as he started carefully picking up the bloody pieces of grass from the ground. "Portal? What do you mean a portal?" Momo interrupted Nezu. She stopped walking and started getting dressed. "Hold on a second, Yaoyorozu. Let the principal finish." Aizawa said as he started writing something to keep the students busy on the chalkboard. "Yes, I will explain later, but for now, I request both of your presence at the spot right beneath my office window." You see, after I told Luffy he was unable to return home, he walked to the window and jumped. "I'm not worried about his physical state at the moment, I'm more so worried about his mental state, so I leave this in your hands, Luffy's friend and Luffy's guardian," Nezu said, and after receiving a quick confirmation, he closed the call and quickly trashed the broken pieces of glass. "Luffy? What's the point?" This sentence repeated over and over in Luffy's mind as he sat face first on the ground. He knew his hands and legs were bleeding, he just didn't care, why would he? He doesn't have a way to go back to his world, he can't see his crew again, and he can never fulfill his dream. From Luffy's perspective, he didn't have a reason to go on living anymore. "Luffy? Luffy," Momo said in surprise when she saw him on the ground. "Come on, Lu, stand up," Momo said, but Luffy didn't, he just stood there. Momo crouched to his level to make him forcefully stand up, but that's when she noticed his hands. She looked at them in horror. "What did you do?" Momo said slowly before noticing his legs were also cut. She expected it to be bad, but not this bad. Quickly steeling herself, she took Luffy by the shoulders and lifted his head up to look him in the eyes. Only then did she see the emptiness within them. He wasn't just sad and depressed, he looked completely lost, his eyes devoid of the usual cheer they held. "Momo? When did you get here?" Luffy said absent-mindedly. "Okay, Lu. Time to get up, come on." Momo said as he put one of Luffy's arms on her shoulder and forced him to stand up. But Luffy's body remained limp. "Just leave me here, there's no point in it anyway," Luffy said with a dead voice. Momo didn't like it. "Oh? Where's the usual Luffy that I know? The one who wouldn't let something like this get him down?" Momo said in an attempt to get Luffy back to his old self. He's on the Grand Line, I'm just a reminder of him," Luffy said. "Oh no, he's already starting with the deep quotes, this is worse than I thought," Momo thought as she looked at him with worry. Now Lu, there's some tasty meat in the fridge, I can cook it up for you in no time," Momo said with a cheerful smile, and, to her credit, Luffy did look at her for the first time, instead of just staring off into space. "Not hungry?" Luffy said before resuming his dead stare. "What?" Momo screamed in her mind as she looked at him in complete bewilderment, if this wasn't such a serious moment, her jaw would be hitting the ground. "This is officially way worse than I thought." "Yaoyorozu? Luffy?" Aizawa said as he noticed them from the back. The first thing he saw was Momo holding Luffy's lifeless body, the second was his bloody hands and feet, and the third was the absence of his hat. "The kid's in a bad place right now, I don't need hockey to know that. I need to think of a way to get him back, or else he'll stay like this forever." "Ah, Mr. Aizawa, good morning, could you please help me out here?" Momo asked, to which Aizawa complied. They proceeded to hold Luffy up, each taking one arm. "Oh, sunglasses, it's you." Luffy acknowledged Aizawa's arrival and continued to not say anything else. Now, with better support, they were able to take Luffy back to the dorms. But the walk wasn't completely silent. "By the way, I heard the principal mentioning a portal, I'm still lost on that. Could you perhaps explain?" Momo asked as she did her best not to squeeze on Luffy's injured hand. "Not here," Aizawa said before taking a quick look around. He didn't want to be heard by any student by accident, like Mirio. Okay, the walk was mostly silent. "Dorms? Give him here, you open the door." Aizawa said as he did his best to balance Luffy on himself. They then quickly got inside, thanked their luck for not being seen, and plopped Luffy on the couch, his gaze never changing. "Shouldn't we call recovery girl to take a look at him?" Momo asked. "I'd like to keep this a secret as much as possible." Aizawa replied before grabbing a nearby bottle of disinfectant alcohol and a bowl of water from the kitchen. "As for his injuries, I'll bandage him. As a hero you're forced to know first aid, which I do. Make a roll of cotton bandages." Momo did as instructed and Aizawa got to work. While looking at Luffy, she realized how he was missing his hat, not having any better ideas for now she made a quick trip to grab it from her room. This has to cheer him up, hopefully. When she got back, Aizawa was already done with the bandages. "Hey Lou, did you forget something?" Momo asked while holding his hat. Noticing that he hadn't moved his head, she put the hat right in front of his face. For a split second, she saw some sparks in Luffy's eyes, but they didn't last long. "Oh that, I don't care about that anymore," Luffy said, to which Momo looked hurt and Aizawa didn't change his expression, he expected it. "But you used to care about it a lot, what changed?" Momo asked. "I can't give it back to Shanks anymore, can I?" Luffy said. "Shanks? Who's Shanks?" Momo said. "Oh, he's a really cool pirate from my world, I made a pro." Luffy began to say, but was interrupted. Whoa. "What do you mean from your world?" Momo asked, feeling genuine frustration for being left out for so long. "Is this related to the portal?" "It is." "Luffy, care to explain what you mean?" Aizawa said, hoping that reminiscing might get some of his cheer back. "I don't care," Luffy said, to which Aizawa sighed. Feeling a long explanation coming, Momo took a seat on a nearby armchair. "From the little that I know, Luffy isn't exactly a human," Aizawa said and paused. "To be honest, I thought you were going to interrupt me." "No, I want to hear the full version first, then make a conclusion," Momo said, to which Aizawa nodded and continued. "Luffy here is a human from another Earth. One in which he is a pirate, I assume," Aizawa said, to which Luffy's lip quivered. "Somehow, he found a way to open up a portal to our Earth. The problem is that he doesn't know how to get back. Nezu has been trying to find a way to get him back, but well, you know. We wouldn't be having this conversation if he did." I see, Momo said while nodding with closed eyes. "What?" Momo yelled after failing to process the information she just received. "Here we go," Aizawa said while leaning in his armchair. I mean, come on, another world. That means the multiverse theory is correct. Do you have any idea what that means? How many groundbreaking discoveries we could make? What this means for the future of science, or scratch that, for the future of humanity as a whole. If only we could find a way. "Yeah, if." Luffy said as he interrupted Momo in his unusual monotone voice. Oh, sorry Lou. Guess I got a bit too excited," Momo said while bringing her voice down. "You never told me, Lou." "What do you mean?" "I told you all the time," Luffy said. "All the time? Wait, you don't mean all those ridiculous stories, those were real? All of them?" Momo exclaimed. Luffy nodded. "The two fighting giants," Momo said. "MHM?" Luffy affirmed. "The island in the sky?" Momo asked. "Skypia, MHM," Luffy said with a slight nod. "The mermaids? The elephant with a tribe on his back? The island made out of cake?" Momo said, and even Aizawa was slightly surprised, not knowing all of this. "Yep, those are all real places that I visited," Luffy said, and a tear escaped his eye. "That I'll never get to go there again." Momo didn't like that she, inadvertently, made Luffy cry, but she also couldn't contain her pure excitement. Those all sounded like incredible places, ones that she would love to see. But what about the experiment and all that stuff?" Momo said as she directed her attention to Aizawa. "Oh, that. We lied about that," Aizawa said nonchalantly. "Why?" Momo said angrily. "Because that would make Luffy stick out, which we don't want, and it would also make him an unknown factor. People are often scared of things they don't know," Aizawa explained, which helped to relieve Momo's anger. "Now that you know, I assume you won't go telling everyone else, right?" "Of course, I can keep a secret," Momo said, to which Aizawa nodded. With that done, Aizawa sat up from his seat and headed towards the exit door. "I still have classes, so I'll be going now," Aizawa said. It's not that he didn't want to help Luffy out, it's just that he didn't really know how. "Yaoyorozu, come with me." "Yes sir," Momo said as she got up and followed Aizawa to the exit door. "Is there something you wanted?" "Listen, because of Luffy's secret, we can't send him for therapy, so it's up to you. You have a month's worth of suspension, right? Well, so does he now. You need to get him back to normal before then, because there's no way he can come back to school in his current state. As for your classmates, you can get them to help you, but make sure nobody finds out about Luffy's secret. If anything goes wrong, just give me a call," Aizawa said as he put on his shoes. "Understood sir," Momo said resolutely. Aizawa nodded, and before leaving, he took one last look at Luffy's still empty expression and said, I'm sure you know, but Luffy's at the edge of a cliff now, you're the only one that can keep him on the safe side. Make sure he doesn't fall. Aizawa said and left, closing the door behind him. I will. Momo said and with a determined expression, went back to Luffy. Okay Lu. Momo said as she sat back on the armchair. Sorry, I interrupted you before, continue. I believe you were telling me about Shanks. What's there to tell? He's there and I'm here and I have no way to give Shanks his hat back. Luffy said as he stared absent-mindedly at his hat. How do you know? Momo asked. How do you know there's no way to give him your hat back? Weren't you listening? The bear and sunglasses both said that they can't open the portal. If they can't do that, I can't go back. Luffy said. Yet, they can't open the portal yet. Momo said, to which Luffy turned his head to stare at her. They're still trying, you can't give up hope so soon. Soon? Luffy said with a sarcastic chuckle. Soon? It's been close to 4 months now. I've held on to hope for 4 months, and look where it got me. So? You still have your whole life ahead of you, so, if you think about it, 4 months isn't that long of a time anyway. Momo said and Luffy got back to staring at the ceiling. Plus, isn't your crew waiting for you? I know you don't really talk about them, but they're still waiting for you, right? I don't know. Luffy said, in his heart, he knew that his crew would wait for him, they waited for him for 2 years after all, but this time he disappeared without a trace. Look Lu, I know you don't like to think but think about your crew and your pirate life and what it really means for you, and ask yourself this. Is it worth holding on to hope? If you can find the answer to that, then I think you'll be just fine. Momo said before getting up. I'm going to make ourselves some bacon and eggs, okay? I'm not hungry. Luffy said, but Momo ignored him. Luffy then took on a thinking face and started pondering the question. He found out that Momo was right, he didn't like thinking. Oh, good morning Rep. Todoroki said as he entered the common area in his casual clothes. I came down here to make myself some breakfast, I couldn't really deal with all the noise in the morning, still have to get used to it I guess. Luffy didn't respond and, with any other student, Todoroki probably wouldn't care, but it felt off to him. Rep. Todoroki said as he glanced at Luffy, he noticed his bandaged hands and feet. That looks painful, what happened? Luffy, are you okay? Todoroki asked one more time. We're all just small little boats floating in an endless ocean, with no compass to show us the way. Luffy said, not moving an inch from his spot. What? Todoroki, even though he barely showed it, looked completely and utterly flabbergasted. He was surprised that Luffy can make such a deep statement, he was also surprised that he can make such a long sentence. Oh, Todoroki? Momo said as she got back to the sofa with 2 big bowls, one filled with bacon and the other eggs, she was also carrying 2 plates with forks. Good morning. Good morning, I came here to make myself some breakfast, but then I saw the rep. Todoroki said as Momo arranged the food on the small coffee table. Oh, I just made some, would you like to join us? You just need to get a set of tableware from the kitchen. Momo said as she placed Luffy's dishware. Sure, but why not at the table? Todoroki asked while pointing at the big table with 20 seats. Oh, well this is cozier, you know. Plus we don't need that big of a table just for 2 people. Momo said, of course, she couldn't say the actual reason, that being that Luffy won't walk. Just go and grab a plate and a fork, okay? Sure. Todoroki said as he went to grab it. Meanwhile, he couldn't help but think that the whole situation was suspicious. First of all, Luffy hadn't already devoured the entire bowl of bacon, which was a miracle in itself. Secondly, Momo came from a wealthy background like him and should know proper etiquette, but maybe Luffy had corrupted her to the point where she didn't care anymore. And thirdly, there was Luffy in general. Todoroki decided to put those thoughts aside for now, since they were pointless without the rest of the story, which he hoped to hear soon. He sat at the table and grabbed a couple of bacon strips and 2 eggs. After thanking Momo, he started eating. Momo was eating too, but Luffy wasn't eating, not even sitting on the sofa. Todoroki glanced over to Luffy and noticed the emptiness in his eyes. He also saw Momo watching Luffy with a concerned expression. Did something happen? Todoroki asked, aware that something was wrong, but not skilled at small talk. Oh, no, nothing happened. Luffy's he's going through a bit of a phase right now, but don't worry, okay? He'll soon be back to the good old Luffy we know and love, ain't that right Lu? Momo said, to which Luffy didn't respond again. Give or take a month. I see, where did he get those bandages? Todoroki asked. Huh? Bandages? What bandages? Momo tried to lie in an attempt to avoid the question. Those bandages? Todoroki didn't get the hint. He pointed at them. The ones on his hands and feet. He didn't have them yesterday. Oh, ooh. Those bandages, oh, I get it now, I get it. Actually, funny story, it's very funny in fact, it's Momo tried to quickly think up a believable story. Well, look, we were outside, okay? And this is after everybody left for classes, we were outside and then Luffy tripped on a rock. Tripped? Todoroki asked with his usual monotone voice. Yeah, he tripped. And he fell into a bunch of knives. Momo was terrible at lying under pressure. That's where he got cut. Knives? What were knives doing outside? Todoroki asked. Oh, the knives. The ones that Lu cut his hands on. Those knives. What were they doing outside? They were being carried by me, Momo lied badly. They were being carried by me, and I tripped and dropped them, and then Luffy tripped and fell on those knives, the ones that I dropped. Yep, that's what happened. That's the total 100% truth of what happened. Wow, I can't believe this. Todoroki said as he looked at his plate. Crap, he definitely knows I lied. There's no way someone would believe me, Momo panicked as she did her best to hold her smile steady as sweat dripped on her forehead. I can't believe something so unfortunate happened. Todoroki genuinely said, Momo face vaulted. That must have hurt a lot, I'm sorry. And no, it's fine, there's nothing to be sorry for. Momo said as she got back on her chair. He believed me, let me explain, due to Todoroki's daddy issues, he isolated himself from any children his age, therefore his social skill is incredibly low. What that means is that he's very dense and is quick to believe people he calls friends, which Momo is. He fell asleep. Todoroki said when he noticed Luffy's sleeping face. I'm surprised he doesn't snore, he usually does. Must be some kind of side effect. Momo said as she leaned back in her armchair. Sigh. What am I supposed to do now? Well, since I'm also suspended, I'll try to catch up on some books I've been wanting to read. Todoroki said as he got up and went to clean his plate and fork. Maybe you can do something similar. Huh? What? No, that's not what I meant, Momo said before taking a look at Luffy. Thanks. Momo said with a small sigh. What am I supposed to do with you, Lu? Chapter 21. Repair. 1/3 of the month. During the first third of the month, nothing significant occurred regarding Luffy's mental stability. This was mostly due to the fact that Luffy spent most of that time sleeping. To address the situation, his subconscious intervened and forced him into a 10-day coma. While he was in this state, Luffy was placed under the watchful care of Recovery Girl in her infirmary. This allowed her to monitor his vital signs and ensure that he was receiving proper treatment. Yawn. Luffy yawned as he opened his eyes for the first time in 10 days. He smacked his dry lips, did some small arm stretches, and rubbed the blurriness out of his eyes. He also noticed a small, see-through tube going through his nose. He looked around the room and noticed the old lady. Took you a while to wake up. Do you think this bed is here just for you to sleep in it? Recovery Girl said in her usual irritated grandma voice, but underneath her annoyed look, she was actually relieved that he woke up. Luffy tried to say, but his dry throat immediately sent waves of pain through his entire body, causing Luffy to grasp his throat. Don't try to speak. The nasogastric tube keeps you fed and watered, but since it goes straight into your stomach, it doesn't really help you with a dry throat. Recovery Girl said as she pointed at the tube sticking out of Luffy's nose. Luffy, not liking the sensation of the tube, yanked it out. Don't do that, you'll injure yourself. TSK, kids these days. After Luffy took out the long tube, he spotted a glass of water and quickly drank it. He felt instant relief as the cold water entered his tummy. Recovery Girl watched him down the cup of water and couldn't help but worry. Are you okay, Sonny? Recovery Girl asked him. Listen, I heard what happened, I don't know the full story, but I know you're in a pretty dark place right now. Luffy didn't immediately answer her, as he was too busy filling up his glass of water at a water dispenser. After about 4 glasses of water, he said. I'll be fine. Sigh. I can't believe that energetic big-mouthed kid turned into the strong silent type. She said as she went back to her desk and dialed a phone number. Maybe that girlfriend of yours can turn you back. Girlfriend? Luffy asked as he went to sit back on the bed. Yeah, Momo Yaoyorozu, she visited you daily while you were sleeping. I think she had nothing better to do, or maybe she cared about you that much. Recovery Girl said as she waited for the phone to pick up. There were others, of course, everybody in your class visited you at least once, even that Bakugo brat. They were the ones that brought those balloons and flowers. She said as she pointed at different bouquets of flowers sitting at his bedside, some more weathered than the others. There were also a bunch of get well soon cards and balloons. Some teachers also stopped by, but the ones who stood around her the most were definitely Yaoyorozu and Izawa. Sometimes I'd catch him sleeping here in that sleeping bag of his and had to kick him out, saying stuff like I'm his guardian, so I should be here for him. That idiot, it's not like he knew when you were. Oh, wait a second. Recovery Girl said as she started talking on the phone. Yeah, he just woke up well, physically he's fine, I can't say the same for him mentally, please do get him, it's not like this is his hotel room, don't worry, I'll call Izawa and report to him, besides he has classes now. Alright, see you soon. Recovery Girl said as she put down her phone and went to a nearby drawer. She got Luffy's clothes and handed them to him. And have you run around in patient clothes now, do we? UA dorms. And just as they jumped in the water, Mr. Izawa caught them and cancelled their quirks, making all three of them face plant into the water. Isn't that funny? Momo said with a bit of a forced laugh as she opened the door to the dorms and walked in with Luffy slowly walking behind her. Luffy did not laugh. Anyway, they were pretty mad that the swimming race got cancelled right at the finale, but, if you ask me, they weren't even swimming. Bakugo was flying, Todoroki was skiing and well, Midoriya was swimming I guess. I mean, that is what I was told. Oh, okay. Luffy said in a monotone voice. How about you Lu? Did anything change while you were sleeping? Momo asked as they entered the common area. Not really. Luffy said as he plopped on an armchair. Well, that's a lie. You're walking now, and that means progress Momo thought with a smile. Hey, what do you say we do something fun? Not today but someday. Like going to the park or to the mall. To get you reinstated in this world. Momo didn't know whether Luffy accepted or not, but she decided to be optimistic and take his silence as a yes. 2/3 of the month. Momo's room. The next day, 8:30 p.m. Okay Lu, it's time to go. Momo said after glancing at a nearby clock. She closed her book and put it on her shelf. Luffy was just mindlessly staring out the window. They're probably waiting for us. Luffy didn't say anything but looked confused. Oh, didn't I tell you? The class is having dinner downstairs. They said they wanted you to come. Momo said. Trying her best to not blow her cover. Not hungry. Luffy said but a tummy grumble left Momo thinking otherwise. It doesn't sound like that to me. Come on, stand up, it's time to go. Momo said a bit more sternly, but Luffy didn't make any indication of moving, he just turned to his window. But Momo was not having it. No, you don't, this is non-negotiable. You have to come. But after still not receiving an answer, she decided to be a little more forceful. I did warn you. She pulled on Luffy's arm hard enough to yank him out of his seat, which also caused Luffy to fall face flat on the ground. Huh? Momo did not expect that, she expected Luffy to catch himself, but he looked like he didn't even care. Are you okay? Momo said as she picked Luffy off the ground and put him on his feet. Sorry, I just thought that you would protect yourself or something. It's fine. Luffy said as he went back to his seat near the window. You still have to come, you know. Let's go. Momo said as she pulled on the back of his shirt. Seeing as he didn't budge, she continued to pull and pull and pull. I'm not going to stop until you agree to come. With a sigh, Luffy finally said fine, but just this once. Of course this is the last time I invite you to dinner. Momo said happily. They proceeded to exit the room. Dining area. Quiet, they're coming, Jiru said in a loud whisper while listening to Luffy's and Momo's footsteps with her quirk. Okay everybody, just like we practiced, okay. Kaminari said with a confetti popper in hand. Kirishima, the lights. Kirishima turned off the lights on the entire first floor, since the kitchen, dining area, and common area were all connected without any real walls in between. Nice, now just remember what Kaminari was cut off by a sharp earlobe. Shut up there here, Jiru angrily whispered. They quickly hid in the shadows and waited. Where's everyone? Surprised mostly the whole class yelled out at once as they jumped out of their respective hiding area. Almost instantly, multiple confetti poppers popped all at once, leaving Momo and Luffy covered in glitter and confetti. The ones who didn't do this were obviously Bakugo and Todoroki. While Todoroki did have a small smile on his face as he watched a terrified Momo trying to catch her breath and an emotionless Luffy, Bakugo just sulked on the couch. Hey, man, congrats on getting better, Kirishima said happily as hugged Luffy from the side with one arm. Yeah dude, you really scared the hell out of us, Kaminari said as he lightly punched Luffy in the shoulder. Next time, give us a heads up. He said jokingly. I am also glad to see our class representative in good health again. Iida said with a smile. Yeah plus, who would have thought that Gear 5 takes so much out of you? Mineta said as he looked at his still unpopped popper. Mine didn't pop. No kidding, it's an amazing power-up, but it comes at a crazy price. Midoriya said near Mineta. They reached the conclusion that Luffy's coma was due to Gear 5 and not self-induced. You're one to talk, every time you use your quirk you come out with at least a couple broken bones. Hakuger said, which made Midoriya bashfully scratch the back of his head. I guess you're right, Midoriya shouted in pain as Mineta popped a confetti popper straight to the back of his neck. Now it pops, Mineta said, annoyed that he didn't get to do it with everyone else, not noticing the confetti and glitter covered Midoriya rubbing the back of his neck in pain. Although, I am a bit surprised that you didn't even flinch. Zero said to Luffy, which prompted Sayu to speak up. Well, he can see into the future. What did you guys expect? Kaminari and a few others facepalmed, unaware that Luffy wasn't using future sight at the time. Why didn't you tell us? I completely forgot, Mina said a bit annoyed and embarrassed. I didn't want to ruin your fun. Sayu said, which prompted Bakugo to say idiots. You guys could have at least warned me, Momo said, a bit angry at being caught so off guard. We did, we said that we're throwing a surprise party for the rep. Jiru said confused. Well yeah, but you didn't have to jump us, Momo said, which quickly made the others realize. Wait, you do know that this is what you do at a surprise party, right? Mina said, having caught the conversation. Huh? You mean you have to ambush people at their entrance? Momo now said, a bit confused. Yeah, that's why it's called a surprise party. Jiru said, and after a second, it clicked in Momo's head. Oh, that's why it's called a surprise, because you surprise the person the part is for, Momo said, which made the others realize that she never experienced a surprise party before. What fun concept the lower class developed. Michako was about to say something but was cut off. It's not worth it, she probably doesn't even realize what she just said. Jiru said in a whisper. Hey rep, check this out, Hakuger said as she revealed a piece of clothing hidden by her floating clothes. Boom, it's your hat. We had it cleaned up for you. Knowing you, it was probably never washed. Mina said as she snatched the hat out of Hakuger's hand and twirled it on her finger. It's not much, but since you live with Momo, you probably don't need anything, financially speaking. Kaminari said as he patted Luffy on the back. I still do believe that an educational book could do wonders for him, Iida said, a bit annoyed at having his idea shot down. I keep telling you, Iida, he'd probably use that book to fall asleep rather than actually read it. Sayu said, which saddened Iida. Anyway, here you go, Mina said as he placed the straw hat on Luffy's head. Ah, doesn't that feel just right? Okay, let's calm down and hear a couple of words from the man of the war, Kirishima said loudly, silencing the whole class. Now, here we have the representative of Class 1A Monkey D. Luffy who, just until recently, was in a 10-day coma. Tell the viewers at home, Mr. Luffy. How are you feeling? Kaminari said in a reporter's voice while giving Luffy a fake microphone. Momo looked especially hopeful. Rumble. Luffy, still not planning on talking, was saved by his tummy making hungry noises. Letting the belly do the talking, huh? I like it, Kaminari said as he got Luffy in a one-arm hug and walked with him to the dinner table which was filled with food and plates. Still thinking only with his stomach. Jiru asked no one in particular as everybody followed them to the table. Haha, I guess so. Momo said with a fake laugh and a forced smile, she was pretty disappointed that this whole thing still didn't spark anything in Luffy. Soon they quickly took a seat at the table, each student grabbing a piece of their favorite food, which was either sushi, steak, fried fish with potatoes, salad, etc. Momo, sitting next to Luffy, saw his empty plate and took it upon herself to put some food on his plate, which was a big piece of steak. This did not go unnoticed. Huh? Where are you helping Luffy put food on his table? He isn't a toddler, you know. Mina said, with a suspicious look. Also, why isn't Luffy eating the entire table right now? Something's going on. Well, you see, Momo stuttered as she searched for a good excuse. She didn't want to disclose Luffy's mental condition to her classmates for two reasons. Firstly, she didn't want to make everyone worry about him, and secondly, she felt responsible for his current predicament. Although it wasn't her fault that Luffy was in his current state, as his caretaker and chaperone, she couldn't help but feel guilty for not preventing it somehow. As a result, she took it upon herself to find a way to improve Luffy's mental health. Hold on, Mina, Luffy just woke up, you can't expect him to be at 100% right away. Kirishima said, not knowing the relief Momo felt. Exactly, Luffy's still recovering, so I'm going to help him out until then. Momo said, relieved. Poor guy, lem know if I can help, okay? Mina said, to which Momo nodded. Soon, the whole class started talking to each other in groups of 3 or more, with nobody really focusing on one topic. Yum, this is so good, Hakuger said after taking a bite out of the fish. I know what you mean, the flavors really do dance on your tongue. Tokoyami said after eating a piece of steak. That's a weird way of putting it. Jiru said. But I do wonder, who made this? Oh, this is all store-bought food. Echako said as she ate some sushi. But, it's really good, right? Wow, I'd never expected that. Hakuger said. Message me the store, okay? Echako responded with a thumbs up. Boy, Iida, did you study for the test? Ejiro said, calling out to Iida. Wait, test? What test? Kaminari said in surprise and in fear, not even giving a chance for Iida to respond. We have a test. Mina was in the same boat. Yeah. On Monday, for calculus. Ejiro said with a sweat drop. Crap, I suck at calculus. Kaminari said in despair. And I barely study. Mina was also in despair, but laughing. It's alright, as vice president, it's my duty to help my fellow classmates. If you ask for it, I would love to tutor you on the matter. Iida said with a certain air of confidence. Iida, thanks so much, Kaminari said happily. You saved us, Mina also said with tears in her eyes. In the beginning, most of their conversations were about school, but then they delved into other areas. No, listen to me. Best Jeanist is whooping Endeavor's ass, it's that simple. Kirishima said in a heated conversation. No way, Endeavor could set Best Jeanist on fire, what's he gonna do then? Throw clothes at him? Kaminari said it like it was obvious. Todoroki, back me up here. This is a pointless conversation. Todoroki simply said. Yeah, it's pointless because it's obvious that I'm right. Kaminari said, missing the point. Bro, listen, Endeavor has clothes. Before he could even think about setting him on fire, he would have already been trapped. Kirishima argued. And he just light that on fire too. Mineta intervened. And light himself on fire too. He's not that dumb. Kirishima said. And besides, he would be tied up. Dude, he's literally fire resistant, he can't catch fire, he literally has a fire beard, like what are we talking about? It's obvious, Kaminari said. Okay, I'll give you that, but he's still not beating Best Jeanist. If he really wanted to he could just make Endeavor suffocate with his clothes. Just saying. Kirishima said, and without realizing it caught someone's attention. Oh, I didn't realize you were such a huge Best Jeanist fan, I didn't expect that from you. Midoriya said, which earned him a smirk from Kirishima. Well, yeah. I gotta stick up for my boy's hero, if he likes it then I have to defend it, right Bakugo? Kirishima called out to Bakugo. I regretted every second of it. Bakugo said eerily calmly, which made Kirishima gasp. Well, I'm too deep into it now, I can't back down now. Kirishima said as he resumed his heated discussion with Kaminari that would most likely lead nowhere. This is how most of the night went by, with laughter and strengthening the class's bond. This also led to avoiding Luffy due to most of the classmates being too busy talking with each other. Sometimes he would get asked a question, only for it to be answered by someone else or redirected. Hey, Rep, I meant to ask when you fell asleep, we all gathered to meet you obviously, but we noticed some bandages on your hands. Where did you get those? I don't remember you having them when we did the room championship. Midoriya asked. Momo visibly started sweating. Thankfully she was saved yet again. Oh, Luffy fell on a bunch of knives and cut himself. Todoroki said it like it happens on a regular basis. He fell on knives. Midoriya looked confused. How does that even happen? Oh, that reminds me, I saw on social media a new villain with knives for fingers. Looked really spooky. Mina said, completely derailing the conversation. That's gotta be one of the worst quirks ever. Hakager said. You can't even do anything with that. Well, actually that quirk can be really useful if you think about it, you can use it in a number of different ways, from preparing meals to possibly surgery, and if you think about it, you can even Midoriya entered his muttering spree. Leave it to Deku to find a positive trait in a bad quirk. Achako said with a small smile. That's how most of the dinner went and to the end, most of the food was gone. Luffy's plate was mostly full, he did try to take one bite of the steak because, even if he didn't want to admit it, deep down felt a little bad for having this big party and not even eating, but swallowing that piece of meat was one of the hardest things he had to do, as weird as that may sound. Eating when you don't have an appetite is already difficult, but add the lack of will to keep going, and you get yourself an incredibly difficult task to accomplish. For Luffy, in his current state, his very body and mind were rejecting food. The next day, Momo decided to take Luffy on a stroll around the campus, mainly the park-like area. It was not an easy task, trying to convince Luffy to come outside, but after dozens of tries he finally gave in, not knowing if it was for Momo's sake or for his own. As Momo and Luffy were walking on the sidewalk, Momo struggled with finding conversation topics. She didn't want to get straight to the point and go dull psychiatrist on Luffy, but she also didn't want to waste this chance just by silently walking the whole time. So, did you have last night? Momo asked a pretty generic question to get the conversation started. Luffy silently nodded. Yeah, me too, I really appreciate everyone's efforts to get you settled in after the whole, coma thing. Don't you agree? Momo tried to see what Luffy thought of the party. Luffy silently nodded. The food that they brought was pretty exquisite. If I do say so myself, I don't think I ever ate such high-quality store food before. Momo lied, she knows that she never ate already prepared store food before. The amount of flavors, coupled with the rich, happy atmosphere that surrounded the party was really something else, wasn't it? Luffy silently nodded. At this point, Momo might as well be having a conversation with a brick wall. They really made such a great event. Maybe we should pay them back somehow. Momo tried to make Luffy do something besides just stare out the window the whole day. She thought that maybe by appealing to his leadership social butterfly-like side will make him agree with her. Luffy shook his head in disapproval. Oh? And why is that? Momo asked, even though she already knew the answer. Never told them to throw a party, they just did that by themselves. Luffy said, to which Momo sighed. I can't make you do it if you don't want to, just tell me if you'll change your mind. Momo said. Seems like plan A is a bust, onto plan B. I won't. Luffy said, and then proceeded to do an 180 and head back to the dorms. Wait a second, I said until the park, why are you going back now? Momo said while doing her best to mask her annoyance. After all, she did spend the better part of an hour trying to convince Luffy. We are at the park. Luffy said, not looking back or turning around. Momo, slightly confused, looked at her surroundings. She saw some tables with benches surrounded by tall, great, beautiful trees. Oh, I guess you're right. Momo said as she just now noticed that they had entered the park. Apparently, she was too focused on trying to talk to Luffy that she didn't notice her surroundings at all. But, don't you want to sit on the bench or something? No. Luffy said flatly, quickly disappearing from Momo's gaze. Momo, not wanting to waste this opportunity, chased after him to continue their talk. As much as she wanted to talk to Luffy in the park, she wouldn't be able to force him there even if she tried. Quickly catching up to him, she decided to get on with plan B. She looked at Luffy's bored expression. Quickly stealing her resolve, she asked him a painful question. Hey Lou, what's up guys? An unexpected cheerful Mina appeared, interrupting Momo's question. She was accompanied by a floating pair of casual clothes. Didn't expect to see you guys here. Hakuger said as she waved an invisible hand at them. Oh, hi. Why are you guys here? Momo asked, surprised as they all stopped to talk to each other. Momo was a bit annoyed at having her question annoyed. She was more annoyed at the fact that she lost all her courage that she'd been building up. You know, we were just heading out to the mall downtown. I saw on the internet that they're having a killer discount on a pair of clothes that I've been eyeing for some time now. Mina said cheerfully. I'm just tagging along. Hakuger added. Luffy started walking to the dorms in the middle of their conversation. This did not go unnoticed. What's up with him? Mina asked, noticing the gloom around him again. I thought the party would have made his move like, way better. Blue? He just, got some bad news from home, yeah, some pretty bad news, and now he's feeling down. Momo said in a panic. Poor guy. Mina and Hakuger said sympathetically. Yeah, I tried to take him out for a stroll to improve his mood, but it seems that I've failed. Momo said, a little saddened. I'm sure he'll just bounce back up, he always does, Mina said in a cheerful tone, in an attempt to override the sadness that Momo was bringing. Get it? 'Cause he's like rubber and rubber bounces and wetn't. Yeah, we didn't really need an explanation for that. Hakuger said. I don't know, this one is a big one. I'm not so sure he'll recover from it. Momo said. She appreciated Mina's attempt to lighten the mood. I'm sure you can do it. After all, you're his right-hand woman, Mina said with a smile on her face. Get it? What's with you and puns today? Hakuger didn't seem to notice the quickly depressing mood that was begging to engross the group. Haha, thanks for that. Momo said with a slight chuckle. I'll do my best. Momo said as she started walking back to the dorms. Bye girls. Bye, Mina said as she waved goodbye. Momo quickly left their gaze and they proceeded to go to the mall. Man, what was that all about? What do you mean? Hakuger said, slightly confused. What? You mean to tell me you haven't noticed the weird mood that was around those two? What mood are you talking about? Oh, my sweet summer child, you still have so much to learn. Mina said as she sympathetically tapped her shoulder. Mina, who has always been a social butterfly, was an expert at social skills and reading the atmosphere of a room. She also knew how to change the mood of a room based on her preference. This was due to her many years as being a popular girl. Hakuger, on the other hand, was not as popular or as well versed in the art of communication as she liked to be, even though she considered herself an extrovert. This was due to her quirk, making it especially difficult to be popular, as it promoted the exact opposite. Dorms. Common area. Luffy just arrived in the common area of the dorms. He found it empty, everyone being either in their rooms, studying for the next exam, or out in the city. Seeing an empty armchair, he decided to sit in it and just stared out the wall window. Momo also arrived, a little out of breath from jogging all the way back. She hurried to the common area and saw Luffy sitting in an armchair. After taking a moment to compose herself, she took a deep breath and continued with plan B. Actually, she didn't continue the fact that she lost all her courage back in the park. Maybe next time. He looks pretty focused on staring out the window, so I shouldn't bother him, besides, he needs some time alone. Momo thought of excuse after excuse and quickly left for her room. She knew that she was making excuses, but she didn't want to enact plan B without being mentally prepared. Some days later. Common area. What's up, bro? Kaminari said as he hopped onto the sofa next to Luffy, oblivious to Luffy's foul mood. He reached for the TV remote and turned on the television. I'm a little bored, so I'm surfing the channels, seeing if there's anything interesting. You know how it is. Not paying any attention to him, Luffy just stared out the window. He could hear how Kaminari was switching channels, only remaining on some for a couple of seconds at the most. That was until he heard All Might's booming voice. Haha, have no fear citizens, because I am here in your TV, All Might said in his usual hero outfit. Whoa, an All Might ad must be an old one, since he's all muscly. Kaminari decided to let it play out, since it got his attention. You might be wondering what I am doing here. Well, this is an ad for my hero agency, look at it, isn't it beautiful? All Might said with no hint of self-awareness as he pointed at his agency. He's really honest, isn't he? Kaminari said as some sweat formed on his forehead. The Might Tower is a secure public workspace that offers countless possibilities for both the veterans as well as the rookies. Whether you're a freelancer, experienced sidekick or a fresh out of the academy rookie, Might Tower will welcome you, All Might said in a very showman-like voice as different pictures of heroes and whatnot popped up on the screen. Whoa whoa whoa, and All Might ad is on. Why did nobody tell me? Kaminari and Luffy heard Midoriya's sudden, loud voice coming all the way from the other side of the common area. With a sudden burst of speed, Midoriya appeared right on the couch, watching the ad with childlike wonder. Wow, the Might Tower ad version 2P, I love this one, I can't count the number of times I watched it. Wow dude, you appeared out of nowhere, and did you just say version 2P? Kaminari said, slightly bewildered. You really are an All Might fanboy, through and through. Haha, really? Midoriya said with a nervous chuckle as the ad played. Well, what can I say? He is my favorite hero after all. Plus, this ad has a really special message that I love. Oh here it comes. Now citizens, as the leader of Might Tower, I have a rule of thumb that I like to follow every time I'm in a mission with my sidekicks. Nobody gets left behind. In my mind, a perfect leader is one that sacrifices themselves for the betterment of the crew, and that's why you should join our agency, so you'll never be left behind. The TV suddenly cut off as Luffy quickly closed it. What? Luffy? Midoriya said, slightly bewildered. Hey rep, what's the big idea? Kaminari said, somewhat angrily. Luffy on his part had a mix on his face between hurt, confusion, anger. He was hurt because All Might's message hit a little too close to home. Confused because he didn't even realize what he had done until after. Angry at All Might for having to relive some painful memories again. Without a word, Luffy left the common area, leaving behind two confused boys. Soon, he reached Momo's room and, instead of looking out the window, he got into bed and forced himself to sleep. Momo was slightly surprised at this. Usually, Luffy would wind up falling asleep at the window, making Momo the one who has to put Luffy in the bed. She counted herself lucky, since Luffy managed to change a little bit on his own. 3/3 of the month. Momo's room. 9 p.m. On the final home stretch, Momo was getting pretty antsy. She did feel like she made some sort of progress, but not enough to warrant Luffy coming back to school. True, he had started walking and participating in group activities more, but he still had that dead aura around him. She knew what she had to do, but she really didn't want to do it. But, because she was on a time crunch, she steeled her resolve and turned to Luffy. Ideally, she would have done this outside, but because her chances of Luffy going back outside is about the same as him getting more than 30% on an exam, it wasn't gonna happen anytime soon. Worst case scenario, this would have happened in the common area. Hey Lou, do you think you could maybe tell me about your crewmates? Momo said as she fully turned to Luffy, who was seated on his seat near the window. As soon as she said that, Luffy physically recoiled. Well, why would you ask me that? Luffy had a hurt look on his face, one that looked slightly betrayed. Momo knew that this would be painful, but it had to be done, otherwise Luffy would stay like this forever. Well, I don't think it's fair that you closed yourself off from the world and become borderline suicidal without even telling me about them. Momo said in a cold tone. Momo realized that what she had just said was completely unreasonable. After all, who was she to make such a demand of him? She knew she had no right to ask for it, but if Luffy didn't talk about it, he would never escape the darkness that was currently consuming him. She was determined to help him, even if it meant that he would hate her for the rest of his life. I mean, they couldn't have been that great, could they? Momo's icy tone persisted. After all, they couldn't even save their sorry excuse of a captain. What kind of pathetic crew can't even do that? Boy, stop it. Luffy was bewildered. He never expected such sharp words to come from Momo. In his mind, Momo was a kind and caring person who radiated a warm light, always ready to take care of anyone in need. But this Momo, he couldn't feel anything besides cold, sharp words aimed straight at his heart. How pathetic do you have to be to not only get lost, but get lost in another world? That's insane to me. How did you even manage to get lost for that matter? Momo's verbal attacks persisted, without any sign or warning for it getting any better. Luffy was trying to respond, but couldn't manage to get the words out. What? Get on with it already. Momo acted like she was getting annoyed. Momo started approaching him with a looming stature. I just saw this thing and jumped. Then well, here I am. Luffy said nervously. Seriously? Momo didn't act this part. This idiot. Momo shook her head in slight disbelief as she stopped for a second and then proceeded on with her plan. And what? Luffy said panicky. And? Where are your crewmates then? They just let you jump into this thing. Well, they tried to stop me, but they were idiots just like their captain, weren't they? Hey, certainly they were weaker, among other things. Stop it, and why should I? Why do you care? I thought you're in your emo phase or whatever. I thought you didn't care about anything in the world anymore. Well, I don't, but Luffy trailed off. You don't even care what happens to this hat anymore, do you? Momo said in a menacing tone as she reached into her dresser and took out Luffy's hat. She slowly made a lighter with her quirk. "Boy, what are you doing?" Luffy said in a mix between anger and fear. He stood up from his seat. What's wrong? I thought you didn't care about this stupid hat anymore since you can't give it to Sharks anymore." Momo said, intentionally mispronouncing his name. "Shanks, his name is Shanks." "Oh, is it?" "Yes. Wait, I just found out, I don't care." Momo said in an uncaring tone as she turned on the lighter and slowly closed the space between Luffy's hat and the flame. "Stop, that's enough," Luffy said as his anger grew more as the hat's doom approached. "Ugh, why do you even care? To me, this hat is just taking up space. Might as well burn it." Momo said as she slowly closed the gap without any sign of stopping. She knew she had to go through with it because Luffy wouldn't care if she stopped thanks to his ability to see the future. So she knew she had to do it and hope that Luffy would stop her. She had enough faith in him to do so. I just care, stop it," Luffy desperately tried. Even with future sight, Momo didn't look like she would have stopped. "Why do you care? Just tell me," Momo said as she raised her voice, making Luffy panic even more. "I just do." Luffy raised his voice to match. The altercation between both of them became more and more heated. "Why? I'll stop if you tell me," Momo yelled, the flame mere centimeters away from the hat. "I said stop it," Luffy yelled and watched as time seemed to slow down as the fire touched the hat. With his pent-up anger and his desperation to stop Momo from burning down his treasure. He punched her. Slam! Momo's body collided with the dresser, leaving a dent in it. The lighter went out, flying into a corner of the room. Meanwhile, the straw hat now rested securely in Luffy's hand. Momo coughed as she rose to her feet and glanced at Luffy, who had tears in his eyes. "Why?" Momo said simply, trying her best to look unaffected by Luffy's punch. She had suffered worse from her previous training. Luffy, having reached his breaking point, grasped the straw hat in his hand as tightly as he could and proceeded to speak through tears. "Sob, it's the only thing I have left of them. I don't want to lose it. Never." Sniff. Luffy said as he crouched down and kept the hat as close to him as he possibly could, as if it would fly away the second he took his guard down. And maybe, just maybe. Momo remained silent, her mind filled with a whirlwind of possible answers. The suffocating silence was only interrupted by Luffy's sobs and tears. "I'll let you be for now," Momo said, thinking it best to leave Luffy alone for the time being. With a quick and cold turn, she exited the room. Luffy didn't do anything to stop her, he couldn't, not then, not the way he was. Momo couldn't leave immediately, her heart wouldn't allow it. She wished to rush in, to embrace Luffy, to wipe away his tears and assure him that everything would be okay. She wanted to do everything in her power to help him. However, she realized that if she continued to hold Luffy's hand, he would never learn to grow on his own. She pressed her ear against the door, hoping to catch any sound other than Luffy's sobs. Unfortunately, there was nothing else to hear. She swiftly withdrew her ear and departed. Knowing that she doesn't have any particular good girl friends, she went to the one she considered her closest. Knock knock knock. Momo knocked on the door. A sudden pain surged through her body as she knocked and subconsciously began to hold her side, the one Luffy hid. 1 second. Momo heard a cheerful and bouncy voice coming from the room. The door opened. "Oh? Yeah." Momo. Mina greeted her in a casual manner. She wore some light casual clothes, ready for bed. "What's up? Wait, are you okay?" Not really." Momo said as another sudden wave of pain reverberated through her body. She wondered if it was because she relaxed that the pain suddenly hit her. "May I come in?" "Ah, of course, come in, Mina exclaimed, taken aback by Momo's appearance. She promptly shut the door as Momo sat on the colorful bed. "What happened?" Mina said with a sense of curiosity and urgency. "Wait, before that. Could you please help me here really quickly?" Momo said as she struggled to lift up her shirt. "Oh, totally," Mina said, helpful as ever. She sat on the bed near Momo and held up her shirt. Momo began to make some healing items. She handed Mina a newly made tub of cream. "Put some on your hand and massage the affected part," Momo said calmly. After not receiving a response, she turned her head to Mina, who looked taken aback. "Please." "Oh, no, it's not that. It's just you're acting as if this happens in your day-to-day." Mina said as she followed Momo's instructions, massaging with one hand and lifting the shirt with the other. "Ah, I guess you could say that. Not so much anymore, I'm afraid," Momo said, and they soon fell into a small silence, but Mina being Mina, she grew tired of waiting and asked, "So, what's the story?" Mina said as she continued to apply the cream on Momo's wound. "Give me the deets." "I'm afraid there's no story. It's nothing," Momo said, looking very anxious. She didn't realize how much she wanted to tell someone about all that she went through this past month until now. She started to fidget anxiously, very obviously wanting to tell her. "Come on, there's obviously something, so just tell me, promise I won't tell anybody else." Mina emphasized it by putting her hand on her heart. Momo subconsciously thanked her for being so persistent. "Well, if you insist." Momo said as she quickly glanced at Mina, who was vigorously nodding her head. Luffy and I just had a small fight. A lover's quarrel. Mina said in a teasing tone as she continued to massage the bruise. It's not like that, Momo said with flushed cheeks, to which Mina laughed. Ahaha, I know. I'm just teasing. Mina said with a small laugh. So, he hit you? Seems extreme. I did something extreme myself, I deserved it. If you say so, but what did you do? Mina said, wanting to help Momo out and to satisfy her curiosity. Promise whatever I say remains a secret. Momo said as she stared with a serious expression in Mina's eyes. What happens in Mina's room, stays in Mina's room. I can promise you that. Mina said with a half-serious, half-joking tone. Momo nodded in agreement and Mina continued to massage the wound while attentively listening to her. I'm sure you've noticed, but these last couple of weeks, Luffy has not been the usual one that you've come to know. Oh, I noticed. I'm sure most of the class noticed. Ever since the coma, he looks like he's constantly having the worst day of his life. You're not that far off. Since it's not my secret to tell, I'll just say that he's gotten some pretty bad news recently. How bad are we talking? Like I just lost my phone bad, or I missed breakfast bad? Like, I just lost my entire family bad? Momo said and Mina stopped for a second in surprise. Oh, yeah. I've been doing my best to try to cheer him up, but because I never had such a close friend before, I didn't really know what to do, so I ended up wasting most of the month. Poor guy must feel so lonely. Mina said as she continued to massage. What happened next? Well, I read it in a book that if someone is in a state similar to Lou's, then you should break them down so you can build him back up. What? That psychopath behavior, why didn't you just let him heal on his own? I wish I could have done that, but I'm on a timer, so I didn't have the time to wait. I do regret what I did, but I had to. It's fine, you won't hear any criticism from me. Thank you. So, I tried my best to break Lou down and got hit while doing so. I left him alone with his thoughts and I came here. I see. Now, at least, we won't have Luff being the most pessimistic version of himself. What did you say to him? What do you mean? After breaking Luff down, what did you say to build him back up? I didn't say anything, I just left him alone. What? Mina stopped. What? Momo turned to her. What do you mean you just left him alone? Didn't you say you had to build him back up? Well, I'm just going to do it tomorrow. Momo said, a bit taken aback by Mina's surprised tone. Tomorrow? You're not supposed to do it tomorrow, you're supposed to do it after you break him down. I just thought that it would be better if he had some time alone with his thoughts for a while. Why? Did I do something bad? Of course you did, you just kicked the poor guy while he was down, you can't build him back up tomorrow, that's going to be way too late, Mina said with air quotes. She felt as if she witnessed a huge tragedy and could do nothing to stop it. Oh crap, Momo seemed to have caught onto the urgency. She quickly sprung to her feet. I should go to him right now. Wait, it's probably too late for that too, Mina said as she stopped Momo. Knowing him, he's probably already passed out, and I don't think you want to make him antagonize you even more than he already is. Then what should I do? Momo said as realization struck her. She fell on the bed as if her legs gave out. I don't know, Mina said, also at a loss for words. She quickly got on the bed with Momo and proceeded to stay in silence as they both racked their brains for a possible solution. What about a grand gesture? Momo said, cutting the silence. It's going to have to be one hell of a grand gesture though. Mina said worriedly. Oh, I hope so. Momo said, and soon she began to make her plan. Wait, since there is some friction between me and Lou right now, can I stay here? It's just for the night. Of course I love a good old-fashioned sleepover. Mi casa su casa as they say. Mina said excitedly. She has been and hosted many sleepovers until now, but everyone is different, she thought, this one especially. I appreciate it. Momo said and began making a sleeping bag. Oh, you can sleep on my bed, I don't have a problem with it. I'll just move over to the side. Mina said. Thank you, but I'd rather sleep alone. If you don't mind. Momo said since she wasn't too comfortable with sleeping with someone she roughly knew. She had no trouble sleeping with Luffy since they lived under the same roof, but this was probably the longest conversation she's had with Mina. Sure, no problem. Mina said and they both got ready for bed. Since it was too late and not enough people to do a proper sleepover, they just skipped the whole process and went straight to bed. Hey Momo. Mina said with a more serious tone than Momo was used to. They were both ready to sleep, but Mina decided to not end the night yet. Yes. Momo replied, wide awake. She, too, was unable to sleep due to the nervousness she felt for tomorrow. Serious question. Do you love Luffy? Mina asked without an ounce of her usual playfulness. Ugh, that again. I thought I told you that I hold no romantic feelings for him. Momo said, a bit annoyed. I see you know. There are different types of love. What do you mean? Well, there are a bunch of types, but the ones I think are the most important are romantic love, boyfriend, girlfriend, dates, marriage. Then there's agape love, which is basically empathy, the kind of love you feel for a wounded dog. And finally, there's familial love, the love you feel for your family, your mom, your dad, sister, brother. What are you? Momo trailed off. So, with that in mind, can you say, with 100% certainty, that you don't love Luffy? At all? Mina said as she looked at Momo, even though she couldn't see her because the room was dark. Momo was deep in thought. Just something to think about. Anyways, night-night, Mina said as she flipped on her side and went to sleep. Momo's room. 6 a.m. Momo took a deep breath, clutching her bag tightly, and knocked on the door to her room. As expected, there was no response. Instead of knocking again, she turned the doorknob and pushed the door open. The room appeared relatively clean, except for the broken dresser, which had a massive dent. She cast her gaze towards the bed and found Luffy curled up, fast asleep, with his straw hat grasped tightly in his hand, occupying the center of the bed. Lou, wake up, Momo said, as she gently shook Luffy to wake. Seeing as it had no effect, she had to take some drastic action because she didn't want anybody seeing them leave the dorms. She left Mina while she was still asleep, having woken up way before Mina did. With a strong push, she knocked Luffy over the side of the bed, waking him up. What's happening? Luffy said, alarmed but half asleep. Momo quickly went over to his side. He still had his straw hat in hand, subconsciously holding on to it. Lou, come on, get up. We have to go somewhere, let's go, Momo said in a loud whisper as to not wake anybody up. Fine, I'm coming. Luffy said with a yawn, still not fully understanding what he agreed to or who this person was. Excellent. Momo said as she pulled Luffy along, hoping to capitalize on the fact that he still doesn't fully understand what's going on. With Luffy's hand held firmly in one hand and a bag in the other, Momo exited the room and closed the door behind them. They hurriedly descended the stairs and left the building, luckily without meeting anyone. With each step Luffy took, he became more and more awake, and by the time they reached the outside, he understood what was happening, though he couldn't understand why it was happening. Luffy began to speak but was quickly cut off. No talking. Bear with me for a bit until we get to the park. Momo said firmly as she took long steps to reach the park faster. Luffy, feeling not so great due to what happened the other day, didn't have it in him to disobey or complain, so they just both walked in silence for a good couple of minutes. They arrived at a familiar scene, with the same benches and trees they had seen a few days ago. Momo wasted no time and sat on one bench, motioning for Luffy to sit on the opposite side. Now they were facing each other. Luffy appeared worn out, for most of the month he had seemed lifeless, but now he appeared unsure and fearful, tightly clutching the hat close to his chest. Momo, though a bit tired herself, appeared determined and composed, with a graceful demeanor. Before you start talking, let me talk first. You used to talk as much as you could, so now it's my turn. I will talk until I give you your turn, deal? Momo said and Luffy weakly nodded. He wouldn't even know what to say even if he wanted to talk. First of all, I would like to apologize. Momo said formally as she bowed. Luffy was taken aback, he didn't expect Momo to say sorry, he expected that she would continue. The way that I held myself and the way that I treated you last night was terrible and disgraceful. And before I even begin talking about everything, I would like for you to accept my apology. Luffy nodded and indicated that he accepted her apology, he didn't say it since he wasn't allowed to. Thank you. Before we get to the real deal, let me tell you something about myself. I spent my whole life as the perfect child. Not breaking the rules, always following orders and never ever drawing any attention to myself. Being the only child and the heir to the Yaoyorozu conglomerate, I was raised with the belief that I must avoid making any mistakes and be the absolute best version of myself. However, that changed when you walked through the mansion's doors. I'll be honest, when I first saw you, I didn't think much of you. In fact, I disliked you before even getting to know you. I saw you as a random guy who seemed oblivious to the world around him. You were lazy, disregarded rules, gluttonous, lacked common sense, were immature, and harbored too many secrets. But that changed. Over time, I began to see parts of you that I didn't even know I could like, and it gave me something invaluable, a true friend. You're the kind of friend who can be annoying at times, but would turn the whole world upside down if asked. See, I had been focused on being my best self every day, spending a lot of time studying and not caring about friendships. Yet, you made me do things I never imagined I would do. You made me care less about studying, you made me confront All Might, you awakened my love for adrenaline, and you made me realize the difference between being the best version of myself and being the version I wanted to be, not what my father or society expected. I idolized you for it. I desired to be as strong as you, to have the power to knock down enemies with just a look. Watching you fight made me understand and feel the true meaning of strength and being outclassed. But then you hit rock bottom. The weight of your suppressed emotions regarding your crew's disappearance and the crushing realization of being here alone consumed you, plunging you into a coma and taking out everything that made you you. Your free spirit, your will to fight everything that had once made me admire you vanished, and I couldn't stand it. I hated looking at your lifeless body, at your dead eyes, I hated the fact that you gave up. Seeing you express even a tiny bit of emotion gave me hope and told me that there was still some fight left in you. My intention was to break you down, pushing you even further beyond your breaking point, shattering you into countless pieces, and then rebuilding you myself. But, after a weirdly eye-opening realization from Mina, I changed course. And that brings us to where we are now. Momo finished talking as she brought out of her bag 2 cups and a bottle of alcohol. Luffy realized what they meant and his eyes widened. I think you know where this is going. Momo said as she filled both of their cups. Her hand trembled slightly due to the fact that she was pretty nervous about this whole deal. If Luffy would refuse her here, then their whole relationship would crumble. I hope I'm doing this right. So, Luffy, here's the real deal. Remember when you told me that you and your friends became brothers after drinking 3 cups of sake? Well, I'm offering you the same deal, but with an added twist. If you take this cup and drink with me, we'll become brother and sister. But it's more than that. By doing so, you're making a vow to never give up hope again. Whether it's 5 years from now or 50, you will never ever surrender hope. So, what's your answer? Momo held the cup of sake in her hand, waiting for Luffy's response. Luffy didn't answer immediately, he couldn't. He looked at the hat in his hand, it served as a reminder for the promise he made to Shanks, it also reminded him of where he came from, the crew he built, the friends he lost, everything that happened in his past world. He looked at Momo, it reminded him of this new world, the friends he made, the enemies he fought, the life he led, everything. But that in mind, he took a deep breath of the cold morning air and said, I'm sorry. Momo's heart dropped. I hit you pretty hard, didn't I? I'm also sorry for the whole past month, it was just a lot to deal with. Luffy said as he put his hat back on his head. When Momo understood what he actually meant, she took a breath that shook her entire body. Luffy took the cup of sake in hand. With this, I promise to never give up hope, okay? Luffy said with a sight that Momo had almost forgotten. He smiled, for the first time this month. Okay, Momo said with a smile just as big. Ting. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.